Okay, welcome to my review of Angel Season 2. Are you sitting comfortably? Have you got snacks, drinks, all of that jazz, you know? Are you comfortable? Gonna be here a while, as we always are. We'll just see how this goes and how long it is. The Buffy Season 5 review ended up being quite ridiculous, I would say. That took a long time to upload. Let's see how this goes, you know? I'm still very, very excited to dive into this review. It's been a couple of days later than I expected, so apologies for that. I've had all my notes and everything ready. It's just, given how long these bloody things end up being, it's very hard to actually find the time to record a chunk, then let the camera charge again, record another chunk, etc, etc. And I kind of want to get the whole thing done in one day so I don't interrupt the flow of my thoughts and stuff. So hopefully I'll manage it today. And yeah, Angel Season 2. Very excited to talk about this season. I feel like lots is to be said. I have lots of different opinions. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I think. And, you know, once it's out of the way, it paves the way for me to start Season 3, which I'll be able to do almost instantly after this goes up, which will be really, really cool. I'm very excited for that. To nearly reach the halfway point of the whole series already, which seems a bit nuts. But yeah, Season 2. Nothing new with the structure of this review. It's going as it normally does. So starting with my general thoughts and observations and discussion on the season as a whole, just my thoughts on that. And I'll keep maybe spreading extra opinions as I go if I remember stuff, for example. Then we're going to revisit the predictions I made for this season at the end of my previous review. Then we're going to do some character studies, just talking about some, not all, of the characters in this season. Then talk about the themes of the season. Go through the favourite episodes of the season that you guys voted for on that post in my community tab. Then my top 5 episodes of the season, which I found incredibly difficult to do. Buffy was an absolute breeze, top 5 episodes. This was really tough. And then my predictions for Season 3. So that's how this is going to work. And let's get started with my general thoughts, observations and discussion. I have a whole page of notes for this one instead of half a page like usual, so that's fun. But yeah, I would say overall, Season 2 was definitely, for me, a lot better than Season 1, and I really liked Season 1 a lot. Even Season 1 exceeded what I was expecting it to be, because we had some great episodes in that season, but Season 2, I think, definitely elevated that even further, and it's definitely my favourite of the 2 seasons I've seen so far, which I know doesn't say a lot, but still. I think having the structure of this season overall kind of be more focused on a story arc and a long-running story thread, as opposed to having a lot of like Monster of the Week episodes or filler episodes, whatever. I know some people don't like that term, that's the term I kind of use. Definitely had a lot less of those this season, and I think that definitely benefits the season as a whole. Because I love it when TV shows focus on their characters and character-driven stuff. And if they come up with plots that are focused around these characters and the main cast and the characters that we love and care about, I think it's always going to work. As opposed to having loads of like, here's a 1-episode character, the plot's going to kind of be based around them really, because we only have them for this 1 episode. Therefore, you know, our main characters are going to be there, but we're not really learning anything new about them. And I feel like we had a lot of that in Season 1 at times. You know, episodes like Expecting and She do sort of come to mind, even though Expecting was kind of more so about Cordelia, but you know, it didn't really present anything good in terms of additions to Cordelia's character in that episode. But yeah, we had a lot less of that in Season 2, and I think that definitely worked a lot better, having it be like a serialised kind of story arc. Was really, really good, and I'm very glad they did that. Yeah, character-driven narratives. Mwah, that's my stuff. So yeah, the cast were fantastic this season. I think particular attention to David Boreanaz, because he's had to play a lot of different angels this season, I would say. You know, not just Liam or Angelus, but the angel we normally know at the start of the season. He was struggling through some stuff. Angel in like Darla's, or his dreams of Darla and stuff like that. It was kind of a different side to him. The morally grey angel in like the middle of the season, that kind of story arc. The angel trying to find himself again after that whole thing. The angel in episode 2 from the past. Yeah, lots of different things, and even like pure demon angel in the final few episodes of that kind of arc as well. So lots of different sides to him, and I think David Boreanaz really did a great job, and he's had some great moments this season. Seeing these different layers to Angel, I think, have worked so well. And yeah, his acting's just improved and improved. I think every single season he's gotten to play Angel. So this is like his 5th season playing Angel now. And that's 2 years of that has been as the lead, and I think that's just his acting's come on leaps and bounds from like Buffy season 1, and he's just so good, so charismatic. He can be really funny, but he does like the heartbreaking stuff really well as well. He definitely does carry the show, and I think he's very worthy of having the show be named after his character. He was great, but of course all the main cast were fantastic. Chris McCartman is always so good. As is Alexis Denisov, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry if that's wrong. And J. August Richards. Maybe they wouldn't always serve the best stuff, or given enough time to shine, which I would say J. August Richards didn't quite get that, even though he very much deserves it because he's fantastic. I do still think that as a whole, the main cast were fantastic. They were so good. They all had like a few moments to shine, but I feel like in some occasions maybe not quite enough. And that is more so with Gunn. I feel like the writing on Gunn sometimes does let him down as a character, not as an actor. Because whenever J. August Richards actually gets material, he's really great. But I feel like we didn't really get many plots this season focused on Gunn in particular. And as a main cast member, I feel like that's a bit... But yeah, main cast, fantastic. And I also really loved the addition of Lorne this season as like a big recurring character for the season. He was in the season quite a lot, really. Earlier on, he was in like 1 or 2 scenes an episode, so it wasn't like a great deal, but he was still making that impact. But as the season went on, I feel like we had quite a lot of heavy Lorne-focused episodes, which I really loved. I feel like he brought much-needed humour to the show and the season, particularly this season when it got pretty dark near the middle there. That whole kind of Molly Grey Angel area of the season. He still provided a lot of humour to that story that I feel like really helped balance it out. So when the season as a whole has like some pretty dark themes and messages and stories and stuff, Lorne was still there to kind of balance it out a little bit more and provide some humour and levity and much needed comedic relief at times, which I thought worked really well. But also, as a parallel and contrast to Angel as a character himself, I think the relationship with those two played off very well. And even in like episodes like Happy Anniversary or whatever, where Angel was still in that kind of phase where he was cutting people off and he'd fired everyone and stuff like that, we still had Lorne around to kind of bring up the mood a bit more and have some lightheartedness still, like we had seen previously. So I really liked his addition to the show. Hopefully we get to see a lot more of him, because I just thought he was done so brilliantly. And it was a very important aspect to the season for me overall. I really loved the charisma the character brought, so we learned a lot more about him. I just loved him more and more. And I think the crux of like the lightheartedness this season fell on his shoulders, and I think it really worked. Otherwise, it might have been like a really bleak season to watch, and it might have felt a bit like, oh my god, do I need to watch another one just now? I don't know if I can. It's just so like, even if it's like really good stuff, there's only so much I think you could take of like dark episode after dark episode. So Lorne really helped with that, I think. And yeah, just the chemistry, I think, with all the main characters and like additional characters like Lorne, for example. I just think it really worked so well. The dynamics are now like firmly in place. You know where everyone kind of stands on things. Gunn being slowly brought into the team more and more. It was really fascinating to kind of see the growth between them all as characters and as actors as the season went on. As like Wesley and Gunn got to know each other a lot better, and they kind of ended up being really good friends by the end of the season compared to where things started with them. It's just really satisfying to watch, and you can just tell I think the actors have a lot of fun with each other. Particularly in like some scenes where you just see them laughing in the background where you're pretty sure they're not supposed to be laughing. But I really like those little moments because it just makes the on-screen chemistry and dynamics just feel all that more real. Because there are some moments maybe where the fourth wall's broken a little bit, and you can just see the actors kind of having a good time. I really like that personally. I think that's really, really nice. So yeah, the dynamics and the chemistry between the leads, I think, really, really worked this season. They've definitely found their stride. And the fact that Gunn has slotted into that team so well in this season, I think, is testament again to J. August Richards. Because, you know, all three of the leads up to then had been in Buffy before, so they'd kind of been familiar with each other. So they already knew each other for a long time before they even started Angel. And obviously Wesley then joined like halfway through season 1 of Angel, but he still had a history with those two characters and therefore those two actors. And then they had like half a season to kind of establish their dynamic and get used to things and used to this new kind of chemistry after Dora's departure. And then Gunn is kind of introduced as kind of a guest character in the last few episodes of that season. So yeah, and it wasn't really, hadn't had a chance to kind of form in that group yet. Then they must have had like a production break in between seasons. And then suddenly, boom, you're a main character. Let's see how you fit. Luckily it worked out well, because I think, you know, Gunn does have a different kind of thing that he brings to the team, which I think really works. And yeah, J. August Richards is just really fun to watch, and you can just tell, I think, they'll get along so well. So I loved all of the chemistry with the cast. And then the big highlight for me in terms of like the arc of the season is definitely all the Darla stuff. I think that was really, really compelling. And I think a lot of the best episodes of this season for me, and definitely for you guys, based on the results of the poll and everything, a lot of the best episodes of this season, or the strongest ones, were the ones that are focused on Darla's arc, like the Darla-centric and heavy ones. Because Darla has such a tie to who Angel is and always will be, I think it was a really kind of genius idea, I think, for when Angel gets his own show, you explore the person who kind of turned him into a vampire. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm really glad that they did that, and, you know, bringing her back in the end of season 1 was a really interesting kind of shock. I think they really did fulfill on that kind of shock at the end of the last season with what they kind of explored with Darla in this season. And the only real shame for me with that arc is that I feel like it just wrapped up a bit too soon. I would have liked maybe just even one more episode as like an epilogue to the Darla arc, you know? Angel hit it and quit it, she left, that's kind of it. I'm sure we're going to see her again, you know, I don't think that's just it. Otherwise, I think that would be really disappointing if that was it. I'm sure that story isn't technically over, but I wanted a bit more, I guess, closure this season. And I do know a lot of that, I think, did come from more behind the scenes stuff, in the fact that I think the actress who played Darla wasn't available for like the last third of the season or whatever, so she had to kind of leave. And then obviously the guy who played Lindsay seems to have gone as well. And it was kind of a matter of necessity, really, that the final 3 episodes happened with that whole pilot arc. So I understand that. But it's still kind of a shame, and I think that's one of the missed opportunities of this season for me. So I just wanted at least one more like epilogue episode with Darla in this season. I'm sure we'll get one at some point, but in this season I still feel like it wasn't quite fully cooked, I think, that arc, which is a bit of a shame, but it was still did provide, I think, some of the best episodes of Angel so far, and, you know, we had some really stunning episodes with that arc, and overall I think it worked very, very well. And yeah, that was just one of the few, I think, missteps of the season for me personally, but again, I can understand it's like more production aspect and behind the scenes stuff, as opposed to they actively chose to not have Darla show up after episode 16. So I can understand that, but it did also, you know, it's a shame, is basically what I'm trying to say. And like the pilot arc and stuff, again, I know it was out of necessity because they didn't really have the big recurring characters for the end of the season. And I think for me, the finale wasn't quite there. I didn't quite click with it, I think, as I had with the previous 2 episodes of that arc. So I was really, really enjoying it to a point. I really enjoyed episode 20. I think that's probably my favourite of that 3-episode story. That's because this world is still like fresh and new to me. I mean, I had a very interesting ending with Cordelia being like the princess and stuff. After that, I did kind of feel like maybe there should have been 2 episodes, not 3. But nonetheless, you could definitely tell there was a bit of padding in there to fill that arc out. But it did have some really great moments, even if overall I feel like terms of like the overall pace of the season, it wasn't really, for me, the highlight of the season to end on that. You know, the finale for me was just kind of, yeah, that was alright. For how invested I got in this whole Darla stuff and that season up till now, for me to just watch the finale and be like, yeah, I guess that's fine, was kind of a shame to me. Did really feel like they were building up something, and I just feel like there were a few pacing moments like that, not quite there for me. Because I at least wanted like another episode after Angel rejoins the team of them not being quite happy with him, but they kind of resolved that whole thing in one episode and that was it. You know, he bought Cordelia some new clothes, she was fine with him, and it was basically fixed after that. I wanted like another episode on top of that, you know? We could have had like another episode like that and then one less of the Pylia arc, and I think that would have really improved things for me personally. So pacing like that near the end of the season, just a bit of a shame that it was kind of like, that's alright to me, as opposed to the setup, which was like, oh my god, yes, this is so good. But you know, it's just one of those behind the scenes things, I guess, and it happens, so I can kind of get over it. And the other thing I wanted to address in this section about season 2, Faith. I was really excited when she turned up at the end of episode 1 and they had that really nice little chat, and I was like, oh my god, and they're going to keep checking in with Faith this season, that'd be really, really cool. We don't see her again. So it was a delightful little cameo, I'm really glad about that. But I guess maybe it's my own fault for thinking that meant there was going to be something more this season, because, you know, the Faith episodes of Angel last season were the highlights, for me anyway, and I think Faith fits into Angel as a show really, really well. So when she turned up, I thought, oh, that's just so nice, and it was nice to just check up on her and stuff like that. And when we had the whole Dark Angel kind of story arc where he fired everyone and he was going down a really dark path, I was like, oh, I've got this sorted, I know what they're going to do. This is the perfect time. They bring Faith back into it, and Faith's like, Angel saved me in season 1, now it's my turn to save you. And she was going to be the one to like talk him back round, and that's going to be like a really cool moment. They could even do like a parallel of him breaking down and she comforts him like at the end of 5x5. I was like, that's what's going to happen, that's going to be really, really cool. That's why I teased Faith at the beginning of the season when they were both talking about how they're still working on redemption and stuff like that. Angel falls off the wagon, Faith is still like staying strong, she's brought back into it somehow. I don't know if she like is released from prison and then she can kind of be there, or somehow she like tricks him into visiting her, whatever. I was like, oh, that's what's going to happen, that's going to be really, really cool. I think that'd be a great way of resolving that little arc and bringing Angel back from the brink. Instead he banged Darla, which is fine, I guess. But I just wanted to see a bit more Faith, I guess, and I thought just would have been a better story for me personally. But that's not to take away from Reprise and Epiphany, because I think that was still a fantastic two-parter. I'm not angry that that's how Angel kind of realised the error of his ways. But I feel like not including Faith more this season was a bit of a missed opportunity in the fact that they teased her in the premiere. But again, for all I know, that was Eliza Dushku could only do the premiere and they couldn't get her back for any more, even if they wanted to. I don't know for sure, but that was another kind of bit of a shame for me. So yeah, it was kind of the Faith thing, the Pylia thing potentially dragging out a bit too long, and the finale just being like, it was alright, and the Darla arc wrapping up. They were, for me, my big kind of, oh, that's a shame for this season. But I know I can kind of excuse a lot of that because of behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, for better or worse, I would say this season did take some bold steps and odd kind of directions, Pylia being a key example of that. And that's kind of an example more of the worse, I guess, for me. For the better, I think how experimental episode 2 was, I Now Have You Ever Been? That felt very, very different and very unique as an episode. And I think that paid off massively. So stuff like that. And, having some kind of bringing Harmony over from Buffy for an episode, for example, that could have flopped massively. But Harmony ended up working really, really well, I think, on the show. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I did kind of, as much as I love crossovers, I do actually kind of appreciate the separation from Buffy this season. The fact that the main crossovers were kind of in flashback form, or Willow popping up for a couple of cameos. You know, we didn't see Buffy turn up in Angel at all, and I kind of like that separation because they've really both grown apart quite a bit, and they both are doing their own things. And Angel is its own show and has formed its own identity, I think. So yeah, I think in terms of that, I actually really liked how it has separated itself from like the parent show, which sometimes I think could be a real risk. You know, if it's like, oh, if people aren't going to show up from Buffy or anything, or if it's not going to tie in and we're not going to do like proper crossover episodes, what's the point? But Angel can stand on its own, very much so, and I really, really liked that aspect of this season. What else? Oh, the less arc-focused episodes, as I've called them. So maybe the stuff that not necessarily is focused on Darla and that whole kind of running plot line. I think were kind of a mixed bag at times. We had episodes like "Oh, Now Have You Ever Been?", which was fantastic. We had episodes like "Happy Anniversary", which was interesting. Then we had like "The Thin Deadline", which I thought was just okay. So yeah, it's kind of hit and miss with those episodes for me. Like more like general plots as opposed to like series arc heavy ones. And I know every single episode of a 22 episode season can't be like full plot heavy arc stuff. I understand that, and I wouldn't want that, I don't think. But it's just a thing that, you know, I think every season of every TV show has at least one kind of dud episode. And for me, I would say Happy Anniversary was that episode. I think that was probably my least favourite of the season. But still, they tried. Fucking Gene. So yeah, they're a mixed bag overall. And while the pacing of the season is definitely better than season 1, I still kind of felt like at times it was a bit like, maybe you could have tweaked that a bit. For instance, I felt the pilot arc was one episode too long for me. I think Angel was kind of reaccepted into the gang a bit too quickly. I wanted like another episode of that struggle. And, you know, Darla leaving the season quite early on. And looking back, I feel like the placing of the Shroud of Ramon, or however you pronounce that, felt a bit odd as well, given that we had like this huge like Darla episode. And then we had like a pretty kind of filler episode after that, like immediately after. That felt kind of strange to me. That's probably the one that I'm least kind of bothered by. So yeah, pacing was definitely an improvement on season 1, because we didn't have as many kind of one episode monster of the week kind of deals. But I still felt there were a few kind of odd choices. And then I think a lot of this does still come from the pilot arc at the end of the season. I wanted a bit more setup for season 3, and I'm sure I'm very forgiving of this one, because I'm sure there is stuff that has been set up for season 3 that I don't know about, which is good, because I want to be surprised by what happens in season 3. But, you know, I wanted at least something to be shown, like, oh, this is where we're going to go next season. This is something we're going to explore next season. And I feel like I didn't really get that this season. Maybe I missed something, I don't know. And I'm sure they have set some stuff up that I don't know about, but I kind of wanted like this is why you should watch next season. I feel like we didn't quite get that. And I think some of that does come from it being set in Pylia for the last couple of episodes of the season, and it not being like an arc-heavy Darla, Wolfram Hart kind of episode, you know? Obviously we had Willow showing up and telling Angel that Buffy's dead. I'm sure that's going to be a big part of next season, in part. So that's something, but I still wanted a bit more like a tease of something more, you know? Kind of like the prophecy or whatever at the end of season 1, or Lindsay losing his hand and the fact that Wolfram Hart was still very much out there. I know Wolfram Hart's probably still out there and still going to cause trouble next season, but I feel like we were missing a bit of that. But, you know, it is what it is. We don't necessarily need that, because I'm going to be watching the next season anyway. But I kind of always like those moments. But I feel like we didn't quite get that this time. And again, when they did kind of set up the prophecy at the end of season 1, I thought season 2 was going to be a lot more focused on that than it ended up being. So I guess it doesn't entirely matter, but I feel like it would have been nice. And yeah, just overall, I think my biggest problems with this season is that it didn't necessarily bounce back from production issues as strongly as I think it may have done last season. You know, Glenn Quinn's departure from the show was obviously not planned out, you know, from the offset. Kind of a matter of necessity in the end, which is obviously tragic and a huge shame and everything like that. But I feel like they bounced back from that so well with the introduction of Wesley, and his kind of what he brought to the show. I feel like they made a real strength out of having to lose a main cast member and the only kind of new main cast member for the show, which is a huge shame. But I think the production and behind the scenes issues they faced with this season weren't necessarily as strong. I mean, they didn't bounce back from it as strongly as I think they may have done with season 1. And again, I can't really hold anyone responsible for that or blame them, because production issues are just going to happen. Sometimes there are more elegant solutions, and sometimes things work out when people are available, when you may not, you know, it's just a weird thing like that. You know, if Alexis wasn't available to come back as Wesley at that point in season 1, you know, what the hell would they have done? It would have been so incredibly different. So sometimes things just fall into place, sometimes things don't. You know, maybe they were coming up, maybe they had a really, really great idea for ending the season, but they just couldn't do it because of actors not being available, and even after that they might have had other ideas. I don't know for sure, I'm not part of the production team, so I don't really want to act like these are criticisms per se. I just want to say, oh, it's a bit of a shame, you know, if only it could have been like this. But overall, season 2, fantastic, absolutely loved it. Definitely some of the best episodes I think of Angel so far for me in this season. The Darla arc was phenomenal. We had some real surprises this season. I think how they ended a lot of the episodes this season were like really, really well done and exciting, and you're like, oh, I need to watch the next one. You know, Drusilla showing up, Angel firing everyone, what other stuff? Oh, well, you know, Angel sitting up in bed after sleeping with Darla, no, oh shit, has he changed again? That kind of thing. Cordelia as the princess. There's some really great moments like that this season, that really stuck out to me. And yeah, season 2 overall, fantastic. Big improvement on the first season, and I think they've done some really, really cool stuff, particularly with some character arcs. The Darla stuff and Angel's character arc, I think, as well. Yes. Big fan of season 2. This season was great. So yeah, that's kind of my general thoughts and observations and discussion on season 2. And now we move on to revisiting my predictions for this season that I made in my season 1 review, which you can check out on my channel. Hunt it down. I think I always add the reviews to the actual like reaction playlists for each season, so you can probably find it there somewhere. So yeah, I made 5 predictions for this season. I think I did alright. Maybe not so much with the first 2, but after that, I think I've done okay. So the first one was, I said that Angel was going to spend the season working towards the prophecy, and that the main trio of Angel, Wesley and Cordelia was going to be really tested. So it's kind of a yes and no situation with this. I would say the trio were definitely tested this season, you know, the fact that Angel bloody fired them, and Wesley had to take over as leader, and they weren't entirely happy with him coming back and rejoining them right from the off. You know, Cordelia was being like, you know, we're not friends, stuff like that, and they had to work his way back up to rebuilding that trust. So they were definitely tested, and again, that's kind of an easy guess to make because it's a TV show. They can't just have the main characters all be hunky-dory and happy for the entire season. But they were definitely tested, so that's something I think season 2 really did a good job of, and they really tested the bonds that they had formed. And I think it's kind of brave that they did that, considering, you know, the end of season 1, they were very much kind of a family, as Cordelia kind of told them. And for them to kind of tear that apart was very brave of them to do, but I think it worked really, really well, and I never felt like I needed to take a side on it. You know, you could see how much Angel had been pushed, but I didn't hate him for it. and kind of understand those actions. So I really, really liked how much they were tested, and I got that right. Yay me. Angel working towards the prophecy, not so much, and that does come from the fact that he went on a bit of a dark path this season. So that's more of a plot thing, and I'm glad I didn't predict that, because that was crazy. When he shuts those doors on the lawyers. Holy shit. So yeah, that was all really, really cool. Really good fun. Maybe not for the lawyers, but for me watching. And yeah, I really thought they were going to focus a lot more this season on Angel working towards that prophecy. I think the premiere was very much about that, and Angel kind of accepting that, oh, I still have a long way to go yet. Then after that, it was kind of forgotten about really, and it wasn't really a big focus of the season like I thought it was going to be. So I didn't really get that right at all, which is fine, you know. When it's predictions, you're going to get some right and you're going to get some wrong. So I didn't really get that part of that prediction right. But the trio got tested, so yay. Then I also said there were going to be more Buffy crossovers this season. And again, I've put like a yes and no kind of thing, because we got a few. Willow did show up for a couple of cameos. We had the Darla episode had some flashbacks with, you know, Drusilla, Angelus and Spike in them, and obviously Darla herself. So technically there were crossovers from that, but we didn't really get like many present day crossovers, particularly not an Angel. You know, in Buffy we had Angel go to see Buffy after Joyce died and stuff like that. We didn't get that necessarily much with Angel this season, obviously aside from the Willow stuff. That's not as much as I was expecting it to be, so I kind of put yes and no, because we had crossovers, but not as many or as like substantially as I expected, you know. I'd still love them to like a proper crossover where all the Buffy characters are in Angel for an episode, or all the Angel episode characters are in an episode of Buffy again. So I don't know if we're ever going to get that, especially because they're very much kind of going on separate paths, and I don't know how it's going to work now with them being on separate networks. I know Angel stays on the WB, I believe, and then Buffy goes to a different network for the last 2 seasons, so I still don't know how that's going to work out. But yeah, bit of a yes and no situation for that prediction, but we did have crossovers, so I wasn't entirely wrong, and that's what counts. And then we had Wolfram and Hart are going to cause more trouble, and Lindsay's going to be after revenge for losing his hand. I put a big fat yes for this one, because I would say Lindsay very much went after revenge for losing his hand. He had a very personal vendetta against Angel on several occasions. A lot of that did come from him falling for Darla, yes, but he was after revenge on several occasions. I never would have predicted how things wrapped up with Lindsay, kind of going off on his own like that, and even giving Angel advice about Wolfram and Hart, which, holy shit, how far that relationship kind of developed. But he did go after revenge, I would say, on a few occasions. And you know, the fact that he lost his hand was a big part of his final episode of the season in Dead End, so it's kind of cool. And yeah, I think it is safe to say Wolfram and Hart did cause a lot more trouble in season 2. You know, they brought Darla back and therefore messed with Angel, trying to turn him dark again. Semi-succeeded, it kind of backfired on them in a massive way. But then we had like Lindsay and Lila and all their little plots as well. Blood money, you know, they were kind of stirring the pot a lot in that episode as well. So they definitely caused a lot more trouble, and I feel like they're going to continue to do so. I'm not sure if we're ever going to get Angel without Wolfram and Hart. I feel like it's something I actually very closely associate with the show now, because obviously Angel doesn't seem to do the big bad in the same way Buffy does, which I don't mind, because it's another thing that kind of separates them and I think helps Angel form its own identity. And for better or worse, I think in some instances, I know a lot of people are kind of put off by Angel for not having big bads like that, and they prefer it, which I think is, you know, very sound, kind of a very sound complaint to possibly have. And personally, it doesn't really bother me, because it kind of separates the shows even further. But I just feel like Wolfram and Hart's going to be a part of the show for the entirety of its run, or maybe they like take down the firm in like the very last episode or the very last season or something. I feel like that would be the only time it's gone forever. And I kind of like that, because they can always just introduce more and more like new loyal characters. And it's always a good way of kind of, if they want to do like a Monster of the Week episode or whatever, they can just be like, oh, Wolfram and Hart have a new client, there you go. You know, it's an easy way of kind of doing that as well. And some episodes just require that. You know, sometimes you just need a break from the main plot of the episode, and that might be a good way of doing it. And I think what Wolfram Hart brings to the show, I think, is very, very interesting in terms of like an adversary for Angel. But even like the whole reveal in like Reprise this season about, you know, they're serving like hell on Earth even, and Earth is kind of the evil they serve, I think is kind of interesting. And I think because that ties so much to the fight that Angel is trying to win against, Wolfram Hart will probably never truly leave the show. I like that a lot. But yeah, they definitely caused a lot more trouble this season, for sure. And then I also said that Darla was going to play a key role this season. I would say yes. You know, she had an episode named after her, for one. And yeah, for the first like 2/3, she was a huge part of things, you know, whether it was tormenting Angel in the dreams, or to the moment he found out she was still alive and she was back. And the interaction between them after that, the kind of adversarial moments for a while, then Darla's soul kind of really getting to her and her begging Angel to turn her into a human. The whole thing with the trial was a big moment as well. And it seemed like maybe Darla could be like redeemed and go down a similar path to the one Angel went down, but then Drusilla comes up and turns her, and that kind of really drives Angel over the edge. And Angel becomes someone even Darla doesn't recognise, which I think said a lot. The fact that Darla, who spent hundreds and hundreds of years with this man, and even must have seen some of Angelus in the Angel we know in season 2. Because it wasn't until like episode 11 or something she was like, who is that? You know? So she still recognised a bit of the Angel we know nowadays anyway. But only then was that someone completely new to her, which I think really elevated the stakes. If this is a side of Angel even Darla hasn't seen, who must know him so intrinsically well, that's when you know shit hits the fan. So the fact that Darla was used like that, I thought was also really, really good. And yeah, even beyond that, you know, when we had the whole moment with Reprise and Epiphany and how she kind of departed LA after that, she definitely played a key role in things, and I'm really, really glad she did, because that whole arc ended up producing, I think, some of the best stuff this season. So yeah, definitely a big yes for that one. And then I also said, this was more of a hope I think at the time, but that we were going to get fewer Monster of the Week episodes, and again, big yes to that one, thankfully. You know, I feel like we only had really one or two that felt majorly disconnected to the main plot. And you know, one of them was phenomenal with Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? So we definitely got fewer, and I think that definitely helped the season overall. But even then, even when we did get a filler episode, like Happy Anniversary wasn't my favourite, I'd still probably watch that again over She or Expecting, for instance. So yeah, we definitely had fewer Monster of the Week episodes this season, and I'm very glad of it. So yeah, those are my predictions for season 2 that I made in the last review, and yeah, I think I did a pretty good job overall. Will I do as well with my season 3 predictions? We'll have to wait and see. I think I've made 5 predictions again, but we'll get there in a little while. So yes, let's move on to section 3, which is obviously the character studies. And as always, I haven't selected every single character who's ever been in Angel this season. There's just some characters who had more of an impact on me more than others, some characters who kind of tied into the themes I'm going to talk about later, so therefore I kind of need to talk about them now. Things like that. So I'm not going to mention every single character and go in crazy depth for every single one of them. These are just the ones I felt deserved a shout out this season. I may have accidentally forgotten some. You know, I forgot Wesley in my Buffy season 3 review, and I still hate myself for it. Haven't forgotten him this time though, considering, you know, he's a main cast member. That does help me remember him. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of things with this. But we always start with the main cast. And since the show is called Angel, we will start with him. Oh boy, I feel like there's a lot to talk about with Angel this season, because there was just so many different sides to him that we saw. You know, we had some really funny comedic moments, like with season 1. We saw him as Angelus in flashback form. We saw him in flashbacks even just as like Angel as he was kind of becoming Angel, and he'd actually gotten his soul back, but he wanted another chance with Darla in the past, so we kind of saw that conflict in him. We saw the Angel we've kind of known for the show so far. We saw morally grey Angel. We saw full demon Angel in the Pioneer stuff. And yeah, the Angel who was very much under Darla's spell in the dreams. An Angel who wasn't the leader of Angel Investigations. We saw so many different aspects to him, and I really like, very much like Buffy in season 5, this season was really kind of beating Angel down and trying actively to kind of punish him for breathing, apparently. Well, actually, he doesn't even fucking breathe. What am I talking about? Punishing him for existing, I guess. That metaphor doesn't really work, does it? For a fucking vampire. But there we are. This was really, I think, a season of testing Angel and exploring who he is, who he was, and who he can be, and who he has the potential of being, and most importantly, who he chooses to be. I think that's the most important thing of all. Because, you know, he had to, the last few episodes, he was fighting the pure demon in him. He ultimately won against that and was like, you know, I'm not going to do this, I'm not an animal. He decided what Angel he was going to be after a season of us being presented with loads of different versions of Angel, which I quite liked, you know, and there's like Angel in Disguise, for example, and like the Shroud of Ramon. This season has laid out so many different examples of who Angel could be. I mean, his journey to kind of navigating all of those different versions of himself and trying to find which one he needs to be or wants to be, I thought was a very fascinating idea, and I really, really like how they kind of explored that this season. And yeah, David Boreanaz is just fantastic, as he always is. And yeah, just seeing the first half of the season with the whole Darla thing and the Wolfram Hart really just trying to wear him down, and seeing them succeed, I think, is very interesting. For a character who's a vampire, it's very nice that he kind of broke down and gave in, and that is very much a human thing, I think, to do, and I really like that they still apply those things to Angel as a character. I think that worked really, really well. And yeah, the exploration in the middle of the season of him going quite dark and down a dangerous path, not really being an Angel we'd seen before or even Darla had seen before, navigating that, and the reason for that being was he didn't want to get his friends and the people he cared about involved in what he felt he had to do to make things better, what he was forced into doing. We really did see Angel be tested more than ever before, I would say. I mean, he was literally, you know, episode 1 was called Judgment, episode 9 was called The Trial. Angel was judged, Angel was kind of going through these trials for Darla. You know, even some plots of episodes themselves were about pushing Angel to his limits and testing him and judging him. And lots of people judged Angel for different reasons this season, for many different reasons, and reasons I can understand as well, like Wesley, Gunn and Cordelia judging him for when he fired them. Darla judging him for not turning her back into a vampire like she wanted. Things like that. It's all very, very interesting, and I really like seeing Angel try and navigate that while at the same time having some really funny lines and funny moments and badass moments, because the journey he went through last season was kind of opening himself up to a family, and opening himself up to people a lot more and becoming a lot more humanised through Doyle and Cordelia and Wesley, and to see him kind of take a step back with that in this episode. Not in this episode, this season. I think that worked really, really well. Because it would be so easy to get that wrong, and for them to take, you know, have Angel kind of give in to this darkness that is being thrust upon him, and be like, oh, they've just gone backwards on all of that development from season 1. You know, he's just pushing people away again, like nothing's changed. It would have been so easy to have that be the case and for it to go so terribly wrong and just feel like you're retreading old ground. But because this season introduced us to so many different sides of Angel's character and layered him so much, I just think it worked phenomenally well to see Angel be pushed into an Angel we hadn't seen before. It wasn't like Wolfram Hart and Darla succeeded in what they were trying to do. Angel then like closes the doors on the lawyers, and he's like the shot of Angel from season 1. He was a completely different Angel to that. It's not like he'd kind of regressed and gone back. He'd regressed for sure, but into a different version of Angel to what we'd seen. And I think that was just so fascinating. And I think David played it so well. And how much we've kind of gotten to know Angel in these past 2 seasons, and how many different kind of aspects to him we've seen and different layers to him we've seen. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that he'd have so many different kind of versions of himself because he's so old. No offence, he looks great for his age, but it's still so joyous to kind of see that. And you know, the look on his face when Cordelia tells him we're not friends, the look on his face when she forgives him and hugs him for all his clothes and stuff, he does that little dance, and all those moments, it's just so well done. And his arc was so well foreshadowed in Are You Now or Have You Ever Been, when he let the paranoia demon kind of just feast on all those people in the hotel when they kind of tried to hang him and stuff. And then that kind of directly comes back to haunt him in Reunion when he lets all those lawyers die. I love how well that foreshadowing worked for his character. It was just a fascinating exploration, I think, of giving in to who other people think you might want to be, giving into temptation to be something maybe you've never been before. But I think Angel's story was ultimately, of all these versions of myself that I've been, who do I want to be now? Who do I have the power to be now? I think he very much took ownership of his own identity by the end of the season, as we saw when he made that choice to not let the demon win and kill the Grusalag or whatever his name was. I think he really did own who Angel is now, and it doesn't matter who he was, or the bumps along the way. He's kind of worked out, I think, really who he is. And as an audience, I think that's a really cool and really like punch the air moment that I really loved. So yeah, Angel's arc this season, one of my favourite things about it, I would say. Very interesting how they've portrayed all these different versions of him and how he navigated his way through that. Just a really great character arc to see him be tested, go quite dark, almost be like the villain for many episodes in the middle of the season. It's a very brave move, but I think it works so superbly. So I loved everything they did with Angel this season. Then we have Cordelia. It's been a journey with Cordelia, hasn't it? I still get comments now, like people going back to my season 1 Buffy reactions, being like, I can't believe you wanted Cordelia to die. Can you believe how far you've come? And if Cordelia had stayed that way, I'd absolutely been praying for her death even now. But she has grown and changed so much. And I love her for it. Just as Angel kind of accepted himself this season and accepted his role in things, I think Cordelia's kind of gone down a similar thing with her visions. Even though she's really struggling with them and they're starting to like have a physical toll on her in a big way. I love that what she was saying to Grusalag, I think it was in the finale, if not the episode before, and she was kind of saying, you know, you can't have my visions, they're kind of part of me, they're part of what I do at home. Cause, you know, the end of last season she really committed herself more so to saving people than to acting, and we still saw some acting moments in this season for her and we saw how they went. But then because of her vision she was made a princess, as opposed to when she succeeded in being an actress and got gigs and stuff, she was kind of talked down to and just seen as more of an object, whereas she was treasured in other aspects for her visions. I like to see her kind of really grow into that, and despite the physical pain it causes her, she's proud of having those visions, because it helps people, and that's kind of who Cordelia is now. So even with like Harmony coming back, this reminder of her past, I would say that the fact that she didn't kill Harmony in that episode and she just let her old friend go, I think still says a lot. She's kind of learnt, I think, to let a lot of grudges go, and if she doesn't kill Harmony, maybe there's still that tiny bit of hope for her, and maybe she can find help later on down the line along the way. I feel like that's kind of how Cordelia kind of views the world now. And seeing how much pain there is in the world is definitely going to change a person, as we saw in the finale last season. But I really, really love seeing how much she's matured. And, you know, she's never let people walk all over her. But I also feel like she's always had that aspect of her, and she's maintained that. But alongside that, she's now really grown as a person. And she still has her moments. She kind of forgave Angel because he bought her new clothes. And she, enjoyed being a princess and having that power and stuff like that. Very much still true to Cordelia. And, her attraction to the Gruselug because he was a good-looking guy. She's like, oh yeah, he can stay, and kind of ignoring everyone else's problems for a bit because of that. Still very true to Cordelia, even though I feel like the whole Gruselug thing didn't quite work with me in the same way. Of course, Cordelia's going to be physically attracted to people and allows that to kind of maybe dominate things at times. I feel like I like to think it's more than just that. Because with Xander, she chose to be with Xander even though a lot of people thought he was an absolute loser and he wasn't very popular at all in school. She kind of gave up her popularity for him. So surely that's not just looks, I feel like she definitely has these deeper connections to people. And I think that's gone from strength to strength from those moments with Xander in season 2 of Buffy to this season of Angel. Just so determined, I think, to stand by her friends when Angel fires them all. When she's being very frank with Bethany in Untouched. Don't get involved with Angel, don't do that kind of thing. Showing a lot of care, somewhat respect as well for her in that moment and for Angel. And just taking responsibility and finding pride in these visions. She's grown a lot, and I really liked that kind of journey for her this season. I think it's been really, really cool to watch, and charisma's just fantastic, as always. And yeah, I just liked her continuing to try and find this balance between, does she want to be an actress, does she want to help people? Everyone's always trying to find their place in the world, and Cordelia's no different to that. But I feel like we've kind of seen her make a lot of progress with that this season. And I think she's always been very confident in who she is and knows who she is. But she's also become someone else since then and has found confidence in being them all over again, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, Cordelia this season always has her funny moments, for example. She's broken my heart on multiple occasions. Charisma's just fantastic in the role. And yeah, just this growth we've really seen in her, this maturity that they display this season. I just absolutely adore her. I love her so much. And long may it continue, I say. She may no longer be the princess in Pylia, but she is my princess. And it's crazy that I wished her dead many, many times before. So there we have it. Then we have Wesley. Oh boy. Wesley, when he first kind of showed up in season 1, was kind of crazy. When he first showed up in Buffy, it was kind of crazy. To see where he was then, where he was at the start of his appearance as an angel, where he is now, I've really loved. I think it's kind of been a tale of responsibility for Wesley this season. I think he had to navigate being a leader and try to believe in himself a lot more. That conversation he had on the phone with his dad, he kind of lost his confidence, I think, all over again. He's definitely a very insecure person in that. He lacks a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence, big mood. And see him not just solely commit to that and be like an absolute buffoon 24/7 like he was in Buffy, for instance. Or he still can be at times an angel. I think we saw many occasions this season where he's fully learning to commit to that and fully learning to be a leader and have faith in his leadership. In Disharmony, he really took charge with that, which I really liked. In the finale, I think it was, of this season, when Gunn was kind of saying, if I was in charge, I'd be doing this, this and this with the plan to storm the castle. He was like, well, you're not in charge, this is my plan. And he stuck to it, and it kind of ended up being quite successful. The fact that a lot of responsibility was kind of thrust upon him this season. He was kind of just made in charge of Angel Investigations, made in charge of that little group of people in the Pylia arc, and he's learned to take it in his stride. And I think season 3 of Buffy Wesley would have completely fallen apart, but he's grown and changed so much. And I think a lot of that is through the bonds he's made with his friends, with Angel accepting him, Cordelia accepting him into the group, you know, Angel hiring him in the first place. Clearly he must have some capabilities. I think him and Gunn are two very different people, but Wesley still has found a lot of, you know, a friend in Gunn, and Gunn shows a lot of respect to Wesley, and I think that probably really helps boost his self-confidence. He probably never imagined having a friend quite like Gunn, but the fact that he made a friend in Gunn and it's so easy and they get along so well, I think probably restored a lot of confidence in himself. That, you know, people really do like me and people do trust me and respect me. And I think he does channel some of that in those moments we really see him shine in confidence as like a leader of a group. So I really liked that kind of journey with him, and it'd be interesting to see that continue. I don't know if Angel's going to like take over leadership again next season, or Wesley's just going to stay in charge. But I hope it's something they explore a bit more, and I hope they explore his relationship with his father a lot more, because they've teased it like one episode this season. They teased it and I've Got You Under My Skin last season. But I think we're still yet to really dive into that in a way that would satisfy me. I really want to learn a lot more about that. And I feel like there's still a lot more layers to peel away with Wesley, and I'm very, very excited to learn a bit more about that. But he's definitely got kind of a dark edge to him that I really appreciate. He still has like moments where he doesn't have confidence in, you know, he's a bit of a buffoon at times. But he was like that all the time when he first showed up in the Buffyverse. So the fact that he's no longer like that 24/7 shows a lot of growth, and I think we've seen a lot of that this season with him really stepping up to the plate, taking the leadership role, even being Angel himself in episode 6. He kind of really did step up there, and that foreshadowing of him taking over Angel's job in episode 6, pretending to be him. He's really, really capable, and I hope they continue to kind of explore that side to him. But the fact that he's not completely self-confident, I actually find very, very endearing about him. So I hope they don't totally lose that as well. I hope there are still moments where he's like, should I be doing this? And should I really believe in myself this much? But the fact that he's grown so much, and seeing him put into these leadership roles this season really helps demonstrate, I think, how much personal growth he's making, even if he's not quite there yet. I really, really like that side to Wesley. And yeah, he still has the capacity to make me cry with laughter. You know, he's still utterly hilarious as well, and I really, really like that. So Wesley is awesome. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with him in the next season as well. And then Gunn, who I do feel like has been let down with some of the material this season. You know, do we get many Gunn-centric episodes? Not really. I think First Impressions was pretty Gunn-centric, and I liked what they kind of did with that, the fact that Gunn was a danger to himself. Gunn was the danger Cordelia saw in that vision she had of him. I feel like they didn't explore that enough this season, because he wasn't so much as a danger to himself as he was a danger to his friends in the end, because he wasn't there and one of them got killed and stuff like that. But that was an interesting arc I think they had with him in the end. While I don't think they gave him the screen time and the stories they should have done compared to the other characters, I feel like we haven't really got like a fully fledged arc for Gunn yet. I feel like we still have, at least they started one, I think they kicked one off. I feel like we didn't get a fully rounded arc with like Gunn being torn between his responsibilities, between his friends and Angel's investigations. That was an interesting kind of thing to see him struggle with that. I just don't think they did enough with it. And when they did, it was episodes like The Thin Dead Line, when it was just like, yeah, this episode's okay. Or First Impressions was like, yeah, this episode's okay. So yeah, I feel like we still need a big story for him, and they really need to commit to him maybe making a choice between his friends and Angel's investigations, because there's only so much you can do with that. If you're having him be torn between both sides of things, you're going to have so many scenes where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't be here right now, I need to join this other team, I need to help my friends, I need to help Angel, etc, etc. And that gets very old very quickly. So him actually making a choice could be an interesting thing for him to do maybe next season. But there were moments, I think, where his struggle to choose a side and commit, I think, is still very, very interesting. And the responsibility he felt when one of his friends was killed, and that guilt, that kind of really ate away at him. That was really interesting, and I feel like we still need more of that as well. I feel like we haven't quite gotten there with that, which is a bit of a shame. But I did like that from losing his friend, he then joined them all to help save Cordelia and Pylia. So that was a kind of a bit of an arc for him, but I still feel like we haven't got a fully cooked arc with that yet, because we didn't get a chance to see him like revisit his friends and visit them after and see how they're coping with his friend dying. He was just in Pylia, then the season was over. So he's definitely, I think, we've seen him learn a bit more about the responsibility of his own actions. I think him struggling with which side to be on, or struggling with fully committing to either side of his life, I think's kind of his big arc this season so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he makes a decision on that. But yeah, sometimes the material I think just hasn't quite been there yet, even though J. August Richards is so good. So hopefully season 3 can be the season where I'm really like, yep, that's who Gunn is. This is like the big arc for him this season. This was the big moment. This is the moment I really loved for him, because the bits I really remember about Gunn this season, aside from his friend dying, and that's more so about his friend dying because someone died, and him like choosing from that to help Cordelia out and save her, which is really cool. Aside from that, it's just like some really funny lines that he's had this season. Those are the big standouts for me with Gunn. So yeah, still waiting, I think, for a big arc for Gunn, but I still really enjoyed him this season. I did like him being integrated into the team. I do think he brings something new to the team, and he works really well with everyone. But there are just some moments where it's like, oh, you know, this is like a big preachy speech. Let's give that to Gunn, but let's have like the white character say, Gunn, you should do this. You should give this speech. You know, I feel like that's kind of a disservice to the character, and hopefully season 3 can improve on that. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, I still really like Gunn a lot. I just feel like he needs a lot more material. And season 2 gave him a few moments of that, particularly near the end of the season. But that kind of felt to me like, oh shit, we're nearly at the end of the season, we should probably give Gunn something to do. So yeah, it kind of felt a bit half-baked by the end of the season, because we didn't have like a season-long arc of him kind of growing and changing. Whereas I feel like we got a bit more of that with the other characters. Granted, we had a whole like season for some of them, or already like half a season, to get to know them in season 1 of Angel, where Gunn showed up at the end, like the last 3 episodes. But still, still looking forward to seeing where Gunn's character goes. And I have enjoyed him this season, but I'm hoping season 3 does serve him better with the material. So yeah, there's like the main cast. I don't know why I said it like that. But now we move on to some other characters. And I've kind of put this more so, I think, in like order of appearance maybe in the season. I can't really remember. But still, we'll just talk about them in the order I've written them down. So we'll kick off with Lindsay. Good old one-hand Lindsay. I've really enjoyed him this season, actually, and if we've seen the last of him, I do feel like he had a really decent arc. I liked how they kind of tied into Darla, and his last episode, like facing off against Angel, I really liked as well. And I particularly like the competition between him and Lila this season for like their promotion. I feel like they really did peel away some more layers to him. I liked that they explored a bit more of what we saw in season 1 of Blind Date, and the fact that he does have very much a conscience, and he does deep down know what the right thing to do is. Like we saw him act on in Dead End as well. I feel like he made the right choices in that episode. So it's nice that it's not like he's completely irredeemable, and he's not like pure evil. In a way I feel like Holland more so was. I feel like Lindsay's a bit more layered than that, and I have really enjoyed seeing his struggles this season in terms of struggling with jealousy with Angel and Darla and that whole kind of situation, struggling with revenge on Angel, and, you know, losing his hand, not ideal. And yeah, I think he brought an interesting kind of aspect to this season overall. Also a killer voice, which he brought to this season, which was great. And yeah, I think as a complete arc, if this is his complete arc, I think it was pretty successful overall. I personally would have really liked to see him like join the team. I think that could have been a really like interesting long-term arc for him, but I don't think that's the way they're going with things, which is kind of a shame. But nonetheless, what we got with Lindsay, I thought was a pretty interesting character. I I definitely enjoyed him a lot more this season than last season. I feel like he definitely had a lot more to do, and him like weighing up with this moral compass is always an interesting arc, I think, for a character to get. And I feel like the actor did a really great job with it. And yeah, he's not like one of my absolute favourite characters by any means, but I do feel like they gave him a lot more interesting stuff to do this season, with Darla and everything like that. And yeah, hopefully he can find some happiness and some peace somewhere. I don't know where he may be going. But I did find him actually quite endearing in Dead End quite a bit. His interactions with Angel were very, very funny. I like seeing that side to him. And yeah, learning he likes music and he likes singing, stuff like that. He went to Lorne's bar quite regularly. It's a shame because I've learned all these things about him in his last episode. Kind of felt a bit too late, but never mind. And yeah, when he was kind of saying, well, you should give Lila the promotion over me because I'm leaving, and he like wished her luck and everything. I just found that very, very endearing and a nice little end to his arc in the season. So while he left earlier in the season than I expected, like 4 episodes before the end, it was still like a couple of episodes after Darla, I still feel like he got more of a complete arc, and he could easily be done on the show, as opposed to I feel like we're definitely going to see Darla again, if that makes sense. So yeah, Lindsay did provide an interesting kind of thing this season, and I think he worked pretty well overall. And if we never see him again, I do feel like I am satisfied with his arc, and like the moral dilemmas he was presented with on multiple occasions. I think he came up good in the end, really. So Lindsay I did enjoy this season. I thought he was pretty solid as a character. And then Lila, I also really liked her. I'm more excited more so I think because I think she's going to get a bit more to do next season. You know, Lindsay was definitely like the Wolfram Hart lawyer this season that the focus was on. But we still had some good moments with Lila trying to desperately hold on to some clients. I thought was cool. The smugness she kind of has at times, you know, it's kind of like a love to hate with her at some moments. But there's definitely a lot of like humanity in there that I really, really like it when they explore like how terrified she was in reunion with Darla and Drusilla kind of sniffing around her, you know. She was kind of really scarred from that. And I do feel like there is a human being in there. And there is some kind of complexity to her. And I feel like we just need to explore that a bit more. And I'm hoping we're going to get that since she got the promotion and everything. I feel like that's a chance to really explore what makes her tick a lot more. I think that will be kind of cool to really see them explore. And I hope they do that. So yeah, I think there's still maybe a lot of work to do before she became like, oh yeah, I'm so excited that Lila's in this episode, you know. I feel like we still have a long way to go before we get there. But she's had some interesting kind of stories this season. The fact that she kind of always seemed to be left behind and she wasn't like the golden child, I thought was an interesting arc that they gave her. But now it seems maybe she is, so we'll see how she deals with that, I think. I'm excited for what's to come with Lila, and I do enjoy the reminder that she is just a human, after all. Some of the lawyers just seem like planks of wood with their personalities at times in Wolfram Hart. I feel like they're kind of designed to be that way, so it's nice that Lila's kind of stands out from the crowd in that kind of sense. So yeah, I'm very, very interested in seeing where Lila might go, and I have enjoyed her stuff this season, particularly the dynamic between her and Lindsay. So we'll see where that may lead in future with her now having a bit more power. Will she, you know, be an ally? Will she be a villain? I'm excited to find out, and the fact that I'm excited to learn a bit more about her and excited to see a bit more of her is clearly an indication that she's a pretty solid character. So yeah, really enjoyed Lila this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. Okay, so next up is going to be Lorne, who I've already kind of spoken about a lot in the first kind of section anyway. So we know a lot of reasons why I absolutely adore him. I think he's so much fun, a great addition to this season. He just brought a lot of lightheartedness and laughs to it, and music, apparently. And yeah, he's the very first character we kind of saw this season in the opening scene. I've kind of been gobsmacked ever since then, every time someone's sung something. So there we have it. Yeah, Andy Hallett is just so good in this role when he works with everyone so well. I think he's one of those characters you could put in a scene with any character and they'd find a way to make it interesting. I think he could just have an interesting scene with literally anyone. And I think that says a lot about how good the character is and how good the actor was as well. Rest in peace, Andy. But yeah, I loved whenever he showed up, and then learning a bit more about him later on in the season and going to like his home dimension and everything, seeing his family. Really, really good stuff. He's just brought so much fun to this season, and I feel like this would have been really, really dark and depressing of a season if Lorne wasn't part of it. So I'm really glad of his inclusion. Just such a charismatic character and so much fun to just sit back and watch. I think I could just watch like Lorne just like hanging about doing basically nothing for 40 minutes because they'd find a way to make it entertaining. That's just the nature of the character. I just absolutely love him, love what he brought to this season. And hopefully we see a lot more of him because I feel like he could be an interesting kind of part of the group. I don't know if I'd ever want him to actually like join the team in that kind of way, like join the investigation team and all that kind of thing. But I definitely want to see a lot more of him. I think he'd be really, really fun. And yeah, he's just absolutely hilarious. And again, another amazing voice. So yeah, really, really enjoyed Lorne this season. Hope we get to see a lot more of him. He was one of my favourite, if not my favourite new character this season, actually, I would say. He was just so, so good. I loved him so much, and I hope we can get to see more of him and learn a bit more about him. He was just, yeah, a lot of fun. Then, Darla. Well. This lady, she is complicated. It's another one of those things with Angel, the show, can take a Buffy character who may have been underserved or underused and just make them into something incredible and so layered and complex. They've done it again with Darla. They did it well in season 1 of Angel anyway, with her like being in the flashbacks, but then they brought her back in present day. And yeah, the dream stuff was a bit creepy, well, very creepy. That was a bit weird. But once Angel kind of found out she was back in present day, and that whole exploration of her desperately trying to get back what she'd lost, really, despite this being the man who killed her, that was really, really interesting. And I liked having another story with Darla kind of wrestling with having a soul again, and that starting to affect her. And getting backstory with her about how the Master sired her and stuff like that, and she was dying when she got turned into a vampire. When she got turned back into a human, she was dying again. And yeah, she's kind of desperate for Angel to turn her back. She had become almost, I think, addicted to being a vampire and that lifestyle. And it had been so long since she had been human, and since she was feeling all these things again with having a soul. I think it was just a case that almost suited her more to be a vampire, because that's the only version of herself she could really remember being. She couldn't even remember what her actual name was, when she was born and everything. So she got mucked up, really, and life was not kind to her when she was actually alive. And yeah, things just escalated from there. And looking at how she was in season 1 of Buffy to what Angel's done with her, it's kind of incredible. And I've really enjoyed the performances we've gotten from her. And the fact that, it's been a really interesting story for Angel this season as well, to wrestle with such a huge figure from his past. I think that's really, really cool. And I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I thought it was a very interesting dynamic they could have on display. I liked seeing the immediate effects of like a soul vampire again. We kind of got flashbacks to Angel getting his soul restored and stuff like that in Buffy season 2. We were kind of really starting to explore it here. And again, it wasn't ultimately meant to be, because Drusilla, hello. But yeah, I still really, really enjoyed the Darla aspect of the season. I think she was a catalyst for some of the best episodes of the season, the best story arc. Really, really liked that, and how she could just so easily play people, and kind of manipulate people to her will, and just the utter joy she had in being a vampire. I actually kind of enjoyed as well. So it's just nice every now and again to just see someone just be evil because they find it a bit fun. And I think a bit of that was in Darla as well. She definitely had a lot of fun killing and being a vampire and stuff like that. It's kind of, she took it in a stride. This is kind of just who she was now, It's kind of a tragedy in a sense that even as a human, it was too late for Darla. Because a vampire was kind of all she really knew and all she really had left. And I really, really liked that kind of journey. And I'm sure we're going to see her again, and I hope they have something really cool in store for, if/when she comes back. But I feel like we're going to see her again, because I just feel like her story's not finished with this season yet. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a bit more of her. But yeah, the way she's tied into Angel, I think, is always made for a very interesting kind of thing. And I really, really have enjoyed learning a bit more about her, actually getting a personality from her, as opposed to when she was in Buffy. and you're just seeing her kind of, I guess, underplayed glee in the horrible things in life. I feel like Darla really kind of enjoys that, especially as a vampire. And the struggles of when she was still mortal and human, I thought were quite interesting as well. And just this desperation she had to kind of bring Angelus back and to get back to the good old days as she probably saw them. Something you can kind of relate to, that nostalgia and the sense of wanting to, enjoy the good old days. Unfortunately, the good old days for Darla were when she was a murderous vampire, and that's not really good for many people. So that's kind of the tragedy of her, and the fact that Angel ended up kind of using her in the end, and that caused his epiphany. I feel like she's going to struggle with the fact that she was kind of the reason Angel kind of got back on the right path. I think she would absolutely hate herself for that. So that could be an interesting thing for them to explore potentially. But yeah, Darla was made infinitely more interesting on this show, even more so when they brought her back to the present day timeline. And yeah, she was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing Angel struggle with, the woman who turned him into a vampire and made him what he is now. And Darla therefore became responsible for who he is now all over again when he slept with her and he got restored to the right path. And she also formed another version of him when her and Wolfram Hart pushed him too far, and he let her feast on those lawyers. So she has this huge responsibility over Angel in so many different ways, and she actually shapes him quite a bit, and I really like that story for her. So she's a lot of fun. I really like Darla as a character. I think she's very, very interesting, and I hope we see her again soon. Then I quickly want to talk about Faith, because it was nice to see her in the premiere, so I thought I'd give her a shout out, because obviously she wasn't in the last season of Buffy either, so we haven't really gotten a lot of her recently. But I really, really enjoyed catching up with her, however briefly, and seeing that she's still serving her time, she's still trying to find that redemption, and she still had a really nice little bond with Angel at that start. So it's just really, really nice to see her, really. And it's a shame, yes, that we didn't get to see her anymore this season after that, with that little tease. But it's nice to know that she's doing okay. She's still kind of trying to find that redemption, and she's getting by. And I'm very, very proud of her, actually. I think she's doing a good thing, and I like that she's serving her time and stuff like that. So yeah, it was nice to see her. So I thought I'd just mention Faith. Also Merle, I wanted to mention, just because he's one of my favourite kind of background characters. I feel kind of bad for him that Angel just beats him up all the time for information, but I think the actor's just really, really good and really charismatic. I just really like that character a lot. We saw him quite a few occasions this season, so I just wanted to give a shout out to him because I like the design of him. I thought, yeah, the actor's just a lot of fun, I think, to watch, and I really, really like that character, even though he's not a huge part of the show. I just wanted to mention that because he had popped up a few times this season. So Merle is great. Really enjoy him. I think a lot of the character designs for demons and stuff this season are really inventive and cool. I really liked them a lot. So yeah, Merle was great. And then I think a standout kind of character and a standout demon for me this season was Thusselak demon, something like that, from Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? I really liked the design of him. He was really cool, and I just liked the idea of a paranoid demon that feeds on paranoia and fear and stuff like that. I think if a demon was going to exist on Earth and studied humans and would learn to feed on anything, I think paranoia would definitely be quite the delectable meal, I would say. So I really liked that idea. It was very, very creepy, the fact that Angel just gave up all his people to him as well. And yeah, he just kind of revelled, I think, in a similar way to Darla, loves being a vampire and revels in that. I think he just enjoyed being an evil demon. And sometimes he just needs an evil demon on the show, and I really liked that. It's not necessarily evil from his point of view, that's how he feeds, that's how he survives. But yeah, I thought that was a really, really cool design of a demon. I thought the concept behind him was really interesting, and how it spoke to the themes of that episode as well. It was just really, really good, and a very nice demon to kind of link to humanity, I think. If demons were going to be real, I feel like a paranoid demon would be one of the most terrifying for the human race, because I just don't think you could kill that thing. So that was really, really cool. I liked that a lot, and that ties into Judy as well from Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? I think she had a very interesting arc for that one episode. The pretending to be white thing was kind of an interesting angle to go about things. And the fact that, in moments of desperation, moments of fear, she pointed, the blame on Angel, and everyone turned on him because of it. And I feel like Well, she really did have to live with that decision because, she ended up being sucked on by the Thusalak demon for years and years until she died. But yeah, that story was kind of very bold and brave, I think, for Angel to do in like a one episode kind of thing. So I really liked that aspect, and again, just the paranoia she felt and the fear she was going to feel that people were going to turn against her because she wasn't white. Or she's like pretending, faking to be white, which is a really interesting angle, and a very unique kind of thing they do with the character. I haven't really seen that portrayed on many TV shows, and I really liked how they did it on Angel. Because they didn't let that character define her. They still allowed her to like give in to like her paranoia and stuff and her fear and blame Angel, because that's a very human thing to do. I really liked that aspect of it, and the tragedy of it as well, when Angel kind of finds her all those years later. When she's finally free of the demon, she dies. It's a very tragic story, the fact that she spent her whole life just in that hotel. Really, really sad, but I think that it just worked so beautifully, and it was a very, very powerful kind of story. And just characters like that can, in just one episode, form like a really unique and interesting kind of connection with Angel. I just think they did that really, really well. So yeah, Judy was also kind of a standout character to me, even just in that one episode. I thought she had a very interesting kind of story. And then talk briefly about David Nabbit, because he was in season 1, so I thought since he popped up in season 2 for an episode, I'd talk about him. Still not entirely sure why he was even around after his first appearance, to be honest. Never quite got it. But he was only in one episode this season, so I don't know if he's done. But yeah, he provided a bit of comedic relief, I guess, but I think Lorne was a much better character for that. But the way he kind of helped out financially with them, with the team, and kind of provided some exposition more than anything. I think that was kind of his main role, other than being a bit of a nerd, which I can relate to be fair. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention him, mainly because he was in season 1 and they brought him back for an episode this season. But again, I don't think he had a huge role to play in things. He was alright, he wasn't he was a harmless character really. I just didn't really see exactly what he brought to things, but still, he's what it is. And yeah, we didn't really see a lot of him. I don't know if we'll ever see him again or not. Obviously don't tell me if we see these characters again or not. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring him up because he was kind of significant last season as well. So yeah, he was there. Then we also have Kate. Now, this was interesting because we all know I really loved Kate in season 1. I started to love her again, definitely, as the season went on. But there were moments this season she really got on my nerves. Like, this whole song and dance again. Oh, you killed my dad, blah, blah, blah. You know what? He should have invited Angel in, He shouldn't have been an arsehole. But yeah, she did have some annoying moments like that. But then I could kind of really empathise with her plight. And you got to feel bad for her. I think she loses her parents so horribly, and her mum was already gone. So, she kind of left an orphan like that. And then her job kind of falling apart, and then really blaming things on her that I think were unfair to blame her for and hold against her. Because, she really was dealing with these like demons, personal ones and literal ones. And she kind of lost her job for it and kind of lost everything. And then tried to almost take her own life, and that got very dark, but Angel saved her. And I like that they kind of made amends in Epiphany, as he had an epiphany, so did she, and I think she's going to try and work on her life now and find out what she is now that she's not like in the police force or a detective or anything. But overall, I really, really like Kate, and I did enjoy her this season in many moments. The Shroud of Ramon, I think, was kind of a big step as well, when she realised that Angel was like saving her life and stuff when he had to bite her. And, letting Wesley go and stuff like that. And there were a few moments where they were starting to rebuild that trust and that friendship they had in season 1 before her father's death. And then, it got torn away again at some moments. But they came to terms with everything that happened, I think, in the end, and they made peace and they became friends again. And I really, really liked that journey. And I liked that we had a character like Kate, who was very, very flawed. And let things, I think, really personally get to her. And did hold grudges, maybe more so than she should have done for long periods of time. But I think people do that. And yes, she went to very dark places, just like Angel did. They both had an epiphany around the same time, which I also really, really liked, that parallel between those two. And yeah, I think she was really, really good overall. I know a lot of people. I know there were quite a few people in the comments who don't like Kate, and that's fine. But I've personally quite enjoyed her. I definitely preferred her more in season 1, I would say. Prior to her like hating Angel, I think that got old quite quick. I don't think they fixed that as quickly as they should have done. But still, they got there in the end. I did enjoy her kind of renewed love of life, I think she found in the end. And she's very willing to search for something else, which I don't think she was or would have been when we first met her. So that kind of progression I really, really liked. I really liked her bond with Angel, and they were on like good terms. I think that worked really, really well. I saw a lot of chemistry between the two of them. I kind of wish we saw more interaction with her and everyone else, like Cordelia and Wesley, for example, but I still really enjoyed what she brought to the show. I don't think she's going to come back. I feel like her story's kind of done. I feel like I read somewhere that she like goes to another show, so I don't think she comes back. Which is kind of a shame for me because I actually really liked her, but also I do feel like she had like a full arc, so I'm not too sad if that really is it for Kate. But overall, yeah, she was a good character. I enjoyed her. Definitely more so in season 1, but I think in season 2 they did kind of wrap up her story really well in the end, and she did kind of restore herself to the Kate I really loved in season 1. So yeah, I really liked Kate this season, and if that is it, then I think she had a decent arc, and I would be kind of sad to see her go. We also have Holland, who I wanted to talk about, just because mainly I really, really love the actor. I think he's really good. He's just such a love-to-hate kind of guy. He plays that smarmy kind of side to Holland really, really well, or did anyway, rest in peace. Although he did kind of come back after death in that whole scene with Angel in the elevator, and this is the evil we serve, that kind of thing, which was a really, really great scene. So he was kind of in a standout scene this season for me as well. But yeah, I just liked him constantly trying to play a game and sometimes play Lindsay and Lila against each other, and he knew damn well what he was doing, and his commitment to the cause and trying to like turn Angel dark and how that backfired on him was actually kind of satisfying to watch in many ways. Him being killed by Darla in the end, it is kind of satisfying to see a character go out like that when they've been such a dick. But the actor was fantastic. I really, really liked how they brought him back for an episode or two. He was on like an episode, he was in Blood Money, wasn't he, for like doing like a film for the charity thing. He did like pre-recorded stuff, and then he was also in Reprise, and I really, really liked that scene and how his contract is still not up with Wolfram Hart yet, even though he's dead. I quite like that idea. I think that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Holland was kind of one of those just guys you love to hate, just a classic kind of villainous role in many senses. And I thought the actor was fantastic, so I really, really enjoyed what he brought to the show and what he brought to his role. It would have been so easy for a character like that to be like really one note and kind of boring and bland, or just like over the top maybe and exaggerated, like oh my evil moustache, ha 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 ha. But the actor was really, really good, and kind of brought a lot more depth to Holland, even if like the writing didn't necessarily suggest there was a lot of depth. I feel like the actor did bring that to him anyway, which is kind of a testament to how good the actor was, really. And I really liked seeing Holland on screen. He always had a fun, interesting presence and energy, I felt like. So he was great fun. Then Bethany I wanted to talk about as well, from Untouched. I just think the story they gave her character, again, was very, very brave. Much like with Judy, the whole kind of abuse from her father and stuff like that. And these powers, how she's kind of made out to be kind of a monster at first. And just how much life had beaten her down in a way that it would soon beat Angel down as well, and the fact that she assumed when Angel saved her that she was going to have to sleep with him was kind of something. So just seeing that as a really broken girl, being manipulated by Wolfram Hart and Lila and her dad, and Wesley in that one really crazy scene. I like that Wesley kind of saw father issues in her, because I think he himself kind of has those issues too. But yeah, that whole kind of story with her was interesting, and when her dad actually shows up and she kind of flings him out the window, but she doesn't go all the way to kill him. That kind of humanity in there I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, I think she had a kind of an interesting story, and one that really stood out to me just for how brave I think it was, and how an interesting portrayal of like, child abuse and sexual abuse was in that episode. I thought, it was done quite well overall. And yeah, Bethany was an okay character overall, and I thought I'd just mention her because I think the story was kind of worth talking about a bit more, and I like the representation of that story in Angel, so they did a good job with that. Drusilla. I love me some Drusilla! Juliet Landau is so good. It's so nice to see her back in like present day stuff on Buffy and Angel in this kind of season. And yeah, we've got flashbacks with her. First of all, in the Darla episode, how that tied into like Fall for Love in Buffy. We saw her there, like Spike killing the Slayer, stuff like that. Saw her briefly. We also saw, I think it was maybe Dear Boy, I think it was, when we had Angelus and Darla when they were yet to turn her. We actually saw that moment, I think, when Drusilla was like turned and stuff like that. That was kind of cool to see a bit more of what Drusilla was like as a human. That was great. And then actually when she shows up at the end of the trial and turns Darla, and then they have a bit of fun in reunion. I love the energy Drusilla brings to things. I think she's such a cool kind of villain that you absolutely can adore, and kind of like, oh, on several occasions, because she's just so batshit crazy. You almost feel sorry for her on many occasions, but she's so cool. I liked particularly the pairing of her and Darla, just how different they seem to be. Darla was very much kind of like the mother figure, or I think even grandmother, I think Drusilla called her once. I think it might have been grandmother, but also like her daughter, because she like sired her back to life, well, back to vampire life again. That kind of twisted relationship, I really like that. And just the interplay between the two of them I thought worked very, very well. And yeah, when kind of Angel then dispatches of them really with the fire, she runs back to Sunnydale. It was just so nice to see her again, so nice to see her on Angel, see the different kind of energy she can bring to that show. It's always just so much fun to see her because she's just such a crazy character and so much fun to watch as always. So it was great to see Drusilla again, loved her a lot. Then Virginia we'll talk about as well. We saw a lot more of her than I thought. And by the time her last appearance kind of came about and she broke up, well, her and Wesley broke up, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of wish I kind of explored that a bit more. But I really liked her introduction and the fact that she kind of fell for Angel, even though it was Wesley. But she's still kind of into him even after she found out the truth and everything, which was kind of wholesome. It was nice to see someone actually be really romantically interested in Wesley like that, because it's often Wesley's interested in someone else and they're like, nah, mate. But yeah, I thought the way she was kind of introduced with her dad was pretty interesting, and how that kind of all turned around on her and what she's actually going to be like a sacrifice. But then it turns out she wasn't a virgin, which was very, very funny. And yeah, it was just nice how it wasn't just one-sided for Wesley's feelings for her, and we then kept seeing her pop up very briefly, yes. But it was nice that they kind of demonstrated that Wesley had like a sustainable relationship, and we saw a bit of it, however briefly at times, and how she was really supportive of him actually quite a bit. And you know, when they got like a new place of business to start Angel Investigations, and after they all got fired, she was really supportive of them there, and she had a few funny lines in that scene and stuff like that. So they did seem to have a lot of genuine affection for each other, and I think they would have stayed together if Wesley had kind of been willing to give it up, I think. And it just, she wasn't quite ready for that lifestyle, I think, to wonder if her boyfriend was ever going to come home every day and the danger he's putting himself in. I don't think she could quite cope with that. Maybe if she'd kind of had a few years to get used to it, and you know, if she had a bit more she was exposed to that life a bit more, she was a bit more used to it, maybe those two could have gone the distance and worked out. But it just wasn't meant to be. I feel like Virginia was still quite young anyway, so maybe it just wasn't going to work out. But I think they seem to have a very mature kind of breakup. And they definitely did have a lot of care for each other. I did really, really like that side of Virginia. And she just seemed like a genuinely nice person, which I really, really liked. And it's just kind of a shame it wasn't meant to be, really, with those two. But it's still kind of cool seeing her pop up every now and again, and just seeing that relationship she had. And yeah, she seemed like a nice girl. So yeah, overall, pretty solid character. Obviously, I don't think they really gave her too much to do outside of that first episode she was in. It was more like brief cameos, really, and then she and Wesley broke up. But what we did see of her, I thought, it was pretty interesting at times. I did like the ties to like the family thing in her first episode, and how she kind of broke free from that, and that was really cool. And yeah, she just seemed like a nice kind of person, a cool character overall. Like I would have been interested in seeing a bit more of, honestly, if they kind of explored Wesley's and her relationship maybe a bit more, or if we had like a whole episode dedicated to them realizing it might not work out long term for them. You know, if she was like thrown into danger, we didn't just have like one scene of that. I think it was like after he got shot, wasn't it, in the Thin Dead Line? It might have been in Reprise, I think that was. When they broke up, he got shot in the episode before, didn't he? But yeah, overall, pretty solid character, and I did enjoy her presence in the season, how it spoke to more of a positive relationship in Wesley's life at that time, which I think he really needed, so that was nice. And then, very briefly talk about the Master and Spike. I kind of put them in together because they're kind of just in very brief flashbacks, but it's nice to see Spike and Angel again, be it in flashback form, and any chance I have to talk about Spike, I'm going to take it. So here we are. And you didn't get quite as much of him in like the flashbacks for the Angel episode, but that's fine because he wasn't really necessarily needed in a lot of it. But it was cool to kind of see the thoughts be planted into Sidda to like, oh, maybe you could find your own pet or whatever, someone to turn, and then they bump into Spike quite literally. I really liked how that would tie together with that kind of crossover. I thought that worked very, very well. It's just a joy to see Spike on the show again after that season 1 appearance in the Dark, along with Oz. So yeah, that was all really cool. I like seeing him and seeing the Master again. They always find some really interesting ways to bring the Master back into it without actually bringing him back to life. I really like that. So we kind of had like a vision of him and when she was bad and stuff like that. Then we had the Wish and we had this episode. I think that's really, really cool. And just seeing like him come and the origins of him like siring Darla, and when Darla and Angelus kind of left him briefly. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And just seeing him again, it's always a nice kind of reminder of the origins of the Buffyverse, and he was like the first big bad of the entire Buffyverse and stuff like that. It's really just cool seeing him again. And I really like the actor who plays the Master. I think he has a really cool voice, and I think the design of him is pretty cool as well. And just getting a sense of what the Master did long ago, long before we actually first saw him in Buffy, like in the sewers and stuff like that. I really, really liked that a lot. And it was just cool seeing him and Spike in the flashback form. It's really good stuff there. And then we also have Anne, who was in a couple of episodes, I think, this season, actually. It's kind of cool how they introduced her in Lie to Me in Buffy, brought her back in Anne in Buffy, and then we've seen her in 2 episodes of Angel as well, Blood Money and The Thin Dead Line. I really like that, just seeing that she's still continuing to honour like this name of Anne, that Buffy allowed her to use, and is looking after these kids. I thought that was really cool, and the charity, learning to kind of forget where the money came from, because it's still money at the end of the day, and how that tied into kind of the dark path Angel was going on. And at first she wasn't really willing to help him fight back against the law firm, because he thought, it was just, her focus was the kids. I really, really liked that. And how ultimately she did commit to the cause of looking after her kids. So she accepted the money, and she's protecting them all from like the police and stuff. She was really genuinely believing their accusations that the kids were making about like police brutality in the Thin Dead Line. And I really liked how Gunn was kind of like, are you playing her? And he was kind of questioning the kids when they were making these accusations, but Anne does seem to have like a genuinely big heart when it comes to helping kids and helping people. So I really, really liked seeing that in this season of Angel. And yeah, it was just cool seeing that character again, seeing how she was in Buffy and that journey through 2 shows, just one character, and how she's changed between multiple shows, and like a fairly minor character as well. And I think it's really, really nice. And it just makes that whole universe and the Buffyverse just feel that much more connected. The fact that we are still popping in and checking in on these like more minor characters from years gone by, even after, at this point we're in like 3 years after her first appearance in the Buffyverse. That's kind of crazy, and I really, really like that a lot. So yeah, Anne's a pretty decent character overall. I'd happily like not really see her again, but if we do, I'm willing to see what stories they could tell with her. But I really liked having her pop up in a couple of episodes this season, so she was a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, Harmony. I love Harmony. She was so good in Buffy, and I loved her appearance in Angel in Disharmony. The interactions with Cordelia was so much fun. She was like trying not to bite her and stuff like that, but Cordelia misinterpreted that quite a bit. And then trying to join the team, and her interactions with Wesley getting annoyed with her was just the best. Some really funny moments with her. I really liked the energy she kind of brought to that really chaotic team in Disharmony, and then ultimately like betraying them all to a group of vampires, which is very in keeping with her character. I quite liked that, and the fact that Cordelia let her go is good, because that means she can come back again, be it on Buffy or Angel. But I really did enjoy seeing her with like Cordelia again, just showing how far they've both come since high school. That was really, really good fun. I just liked the team dynamic of her kind of getting in everyone's nerves when she wanted to join the team. She kind of invited herself into the team. Classic Harmony, but she's so much fun. I really do enjoy seeing her pop up. And hopefully we'll get more of that, because I think she suited like that type of episode of Angel really, really well. Oh, I've just activated Siri somehow. Shut up. But yeah, I don't know if she could fit long term on Angel. I'd like to see her like keep guest appearing, kind of like in Buffy when she turns up every now and again, because she's such a fun character, and it was really nice to see her pop up. It was a really, really nice surprise. And yeah, again, speaking of turning up with nice surprises, I'm going to talk about Willow, just because I can, just because she was in 2 episodes. That cameo in Disharmony kind of blew my mind in the best way. I loved that so much. The fact that, you know, just showing her and Cordelia still kind of have somewhat of a friendship, and that they were calling her to talk about Harmony. It was just a really nice little cameo, and again, Cordelia's misunderstanding about Harmony's intentions led to a very funny moment with Willow. There's a joy of seeing like a character that I love so deeply as Willow. You know, is my favourite character in the Buffyverse. Seeing her pop up on Angel was so cool, especially because it was like the first time she appeared when she was in Disharmony as well. She hadn't been on Angel before then. So we'd had both my cinnamon rolls, Oz and Willow, were both on Angel, which is really, really nice. I really liked that kind of cameo from her in Disharmony. Provided, you know, a decent laugh and exposition, which helped. And it just shows that these shows really are connected, and people have lives and are moving on, stuff like that, but they haven't forgotten about the Cordelia connection to Buffy. I liked that a lot. Because, you know, some people do grow apart, but some people do have, you know, they call on the phone every now and again, and I really liked how they showed that with Willow. And then, yeah, that final little gut punch and stab in the heart at the end of the season, where they get back to the hotel and Willow's there waiting for them. Doesn't even have to say a word, and it's just really powerful stuff. And it's just a testament to Alison Hannigan's performance, but I love seeing her again, that little surprise. You know, it wasn't a very enjoyable appearance, because obviously it meant she was telling Angel that Buffy was dead, but I really loved that kind of way of ending the season on a really kind of bleak note, and just a look on her face in that moment, it's just so heartbreaking, but it was just still so much joy coming from seeing Willow turn up on Angel. Hopefully we get a lot more of her on the show at some point. I'd love to see, like, we've had Buffy, we've had Oz, we've had Spike, we've had Willow. I'd love to see Giles and Xander be on the show. I feel like that could be a very interesting dynamic to see those two, because they've really had quite the history with Angel in the past, those two. So I think seeing more characters turn up as well, even if like Willow and Tara kind of come for an episode, I think that'd be a lot of fun. There's those kind of little crossovers like that I really enjoy. So Willow, love her, but that's not a surprise, and hopefully we get to see more of her on Angel at some point. Then we'll kind of group all these together, because like from the pilot arc, Silas is kind of like the villain near the end of the season. He was kind of, you know, a bit one note, and you know, not the best villain that the show's had. But you know, I thought the design of him was pretty cool with the robes and stuff, and his commitment to the cause was admirable. Good for him, I suppose. But yeah, overall, he got the most screen time, I think, in like the finale. That's when they really bigged him up as like a villain for them to face, because I feel like they felt they needed one. And because I wasn't really that invested in him as a villain, and he got quite a bit of screen time in that finale. That's probably another reason when I was like, yeah, that's okay, I'm not that invested in it though. But you know, he was a serviceable villain to kind of face, someone to hate at the end of the season, and Cordelia cutting herself was very, very satisfying, because he just wouldn't shut up. So yeah, he was quite something. Landok, I really, really enjoyed actually. I liked when we first saw him in Belonging, and that tie to Lorne, that allowed us to learn a bit more about him, and the fact that they were cousins was very funny, and just a sense of humour that he kind of had. Even when like Lorne was singing, he was like, what is this magic, or whatever. Very, very funny. I really liked the actor. for like a character who has to be played so like straight-faced and blunt, they brought a lot of kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of charisma to that performance. I think the actor did a great job as Landok. And he was a lot of fun. I wouldn't be, mad if we ever saw him again. I don't know if we will, because I feel like they're kind of done with the whole Pioneer thing now, especially based on how it seems to have been received by fans. I don't know if they'd ever go back there. But I really, really did enjoy Landok as a character. I thought he was a very interesting kind of foil for Lorne and his character arc. And yeah, when we saw him again multiple times in the Pioneer arc, I thought that was very, very funny. And he was just a lot of fun. I thought I'd give him a shout out because the actor, I think, did a great job. Then we have Grusalog, I don't know how to say it really. But he was there, I guess. He was okay, he had his moments. I did enjoy how much he worshipped Cordelia. That was very wholesome. But yeah, we kind of noticed from my reactions, I didn't quite get Cordelia's love for him. I feel like that was really rushed. And when it was like him just telling Cordelia his stories and stuff, I really felt like that dragged the episodes down a bit. I just felt like myself getting a bit not as interested. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, finish your speech. I just didn't really buy into that kind of aspect of that plot line on Pioneer that much. And it's probably my least favourite aspect of it. But I thought the actor did a good job with what he was given. It's just I wasn't that invested in the character as an off. I know there's some people who actually really liked him. But for me, I didn't quite get the character. But, he did have a major role to play in the last couple of episodes of the season, so I thought I would mention him anyway. But yeah, it didn't quite connect with that character for me. But, that's the way it is. There'll be some characters I've talked about and say I absolutely love on the list already, and people will be like, oh no, I don't like them. But that's TV, that's the beauty of it, and that's the beauty of some of these different characters, so you love them and you hate them. Or you're kind of indifferent. It's not like I hate Grusalog. I just never really got his arc or his significance and why he got so much screen time in the finale. So yeah, never quite connected with that character, but for what he was okay. I'm kind of indifferent to him. Then the final character I want to talk about is Fred. Who I really love, and I feel like if we see more of her, she could become cinnamon roll territory because she was absolutely adorable. I really liked Amy Acker a lot. The bond that Fred and Angel kind of formed was really, really cool. I liked how they set up her being sent into this other dimension, and then they had it happen to Cordelia, and then that brought her into the plot. She had a lot of really funny moments, a lot of heartfelt moments. She just seemed really, really sweet and genuine and lovely. How she was like looking after Angel when she saw past the demon in him. She was really, really wholesome. I liked that a lot. And yeah, she had some really funny moments, like when she was like encouraging Angel, when he was like challenging the Grusalog and hiding behind like two really thin bars. You could still see her really obviously. When Angel became like full demon, she kind of there with the blood, like hello. It just seems to be a very interesting kind of, I don't know. She's a very heartwarming character, I would say. She makes me feel all warm inside when she's on screen. You just want to give her a hug and you just want to, keep her safe and wrap her in a blanket. She's very, very wholesome like that, and I really enjoyed her. And what she gave, she's one of my favourite things about the whole Pioneer thing. The fact that she came back with a team at the end makes me think maybe she's going to be joining them, or at least going to be like a recurring character, and we're going to see her again, see more of her. Which I'm all for. I really, really hope that is the case, because I really, really did enjoy Amy Acker's performance and just the character as a whole. It was very, very wholesome, very, very sweet, and I really enjoyed seeing her. Her relationship with Angel, I thought, worked really, really nicely, and kind of shipped it a little bit. So yeah, I really liked Fred a lot, and it'd be interesting to maybe see her try and readjust to being back on Earth. And I think that could be quite something. And I really enjoyed the character a lot, and I hope we see more of her at some point. I really, really liked Fred a lot. She's probably one of my, along with Lorne, out of like the new characters this season, I think her and Fred are definitely, Lorne and Fred even, are like probably my top two. I really, really enjoyed her a lot. She was very, very sweet, and hopefully we see more of her. So yeah, that's kind of all the thoughts I had on the major characters I wanted to discuss this season. We had some really, really great character arcs, some really great supporting characters who I hope we see again. They tied up some of the arcs really, really well, like with Lindsay and Kate. Very excited for the future of like maybe Lorne and Lila and Fred. and just seeing like old favourites like Harmony and Spike and Drusilla and the Master, stuff like that. Really great. Some really cool demons in there as well this season. Some really cool designs for them. Some really bold storytelling with like Judy and Bethany, and cameos from like Willow. Everything. Best episodes ever. And even like some characters like Virginia, who are more so like love interests, still brought something interesting. It was nice to kind of see more of like the personal life of our main cast through characters like Virginia. I thought that was very, very nice, and hopefully we get a bit more of that in future, because I feel like that might have been a bit underserved a bit. So yeah, we had a really, really kind of diverse range of characters this season. You know, some more successful than others for me, but I do think the selection of characters we've got to know and love this season were quite something, and I'm hopefully going to enjoy even more characters in the next 3 seasons, be it new or returning ones. Hopefully there are a lot of surprises and characters in store, some new cinnamon rolls maybe, and yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what characters we could meet. But the characters in season 2 were really, really strong. Yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of the journeys, particularly Angel's arc was sublime, and hopefully they can keep that up in terms of character driven stuff in season 3. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the themes that I picked up on for season 2. And yeah, as always, this is just like stuff I picked up on. I may have missed some obvious stuff. I may not give every single example I ever thought of for the theme, because, you know, we're already going to be here for a little while. You know, let's not extend it. So yeah, a few things I picked up on, and we're going to start off with the obvious one. I think I also very clearly had this for last season as well, but redemption. I think this is just going to be a theme for every season, because I think if you're going to sum up the show in one word, I think redemption would probably be the one I would use. So yeah, Angel is very much a big personification of that theme, which makes sense given it's his show. You know, trying to make amends for everything he did in the past anyway, and then we have the prophecy kind of gone into that, the Shanshu prophecy. That's kind of a goal for his redemption now, as opposed to him previously just wanting to be redeemed because it was right. It is kind of nice to think that he might have a reward for it at the end of everything. So I suppose, could you argue, is that true redemption? If he's like, oh, if I do like redeem myself, I think, you know, I could become human again or whatever. Like a prize for redemption or something. That's an interesting kind of thing they could explore maybe. Is he unknowingly, selfishly going to want to get redemption now, as opposed to before when he was just doing it because it was the right thing to do? Because he thinks there's a chance that the prophecy might be real and stuff like that. Could be interesting. I don't think that is what it is for Angel. I think he just genuinely wants to make amends for who he was, because obviously he has a soul again. So yeah, obviously he's a big kind of part of that theme, and also when he kind of went off the rails a bit in the middle of the season, and fired everyone and stuff like that, he needed to seek redemption for that before he could even get back on track to the original quest for redemption he was on. Because, you know, the people who were helping him through that, he even got rid of all of them for a time. So he's kind of making amends with his friends, as opposed to just redemption as a whole. So that's a big example of that. To an extent, probably Lorne and his family as well. I think there's kind of a hope in Lorne that he might be welcomed back home with open arms at times. But I think more so with that, because he like turned his back on the clan and their ways and stuff like that. I think it was more so they wanted him to redeem himself, and it was a quest of Lorne realising he doesn't need to kind of prove that. Because that's just not where he belonged, and I think that's another big thing this season, is like where you belong and what role you should have, which we saw with Angel as well. Cordelia, the princess, or someone who like saves people with her visions, and what Lorne was kind of saying at the end of the season, you know, he belongs in LA because no one belongs in LA. I think that was a really interesting kind of theme as well, and I'm not sure that's one I actually picked up on, but belonging somewhere, or maybe even to someone at times, could be another big theme this season. But yeah, Lorne kind of trying to open his heart to the possibility of maybe redeeming himself in the eyes of his family or whatever, as he was talking about with his friend. He needs to at least go back one more time to try and patch things up. But I think he realised necessarily redemption isn't what you necessarily need, because that wasn't the person he wanted to be. So I quite like that. You know, sometimes getting redemption in a very twisted way isn't always what's best for you. And I kind of liked how they approached that. And Darla as well, this is the chance of redemption, I think, more than anything else, because we know she didn't quite redeem herself because she became a vampire again. But she was kind of nearly going on the same journey that Angel went down with having her soul back. And she was feeling these things, and Angel was, I think, going to try and get her down that same path that he went on, and that path of redemption that he was going down. Obviously it didn't go that way, but I think in trying to save Darla, it kind of speaks into the theme of redemption, because that is one of many paths she could have gone down this season, which is another big thing in season 2 as I think about it. You know, which path do you choose to go down? We saw that with Angel and all his different selves this season. Darla, and, you know, is she going to redeem herself and stick to being human with her soul, or is she going to become the vampire? You know, is Lindsay going to stay with Wolfram Hart, or is he going to leave? Is Lila going to get a promotion? Is she going to get killed? Is Cordelia going to stay in Pylia or go back home? That kind of thing. So that's another one as well. I guess Harmony, to an extent, as well. I think she went to LA to not necessarily redeem herself for being a vampire or being evil or anything she did with that. I think she was trying more so to redeem her sense of self-respect that she felt she'd lost after her relationship with Spike and how that all went down. So there's like kind of different examples of redemption in that sense, so I thought that could be one to bring up, just because it's not like the classic redemption arc story with Harmony. It was more so she wanted to find redemption in herself as opposed to doing the right thing. I think Gunn could be another example of this. He clearly blamed himself when his friend was killed, and he wasn't there for it, and he feels like maybe that could have made a difference if he was there, because he kind of had these split loyalties for most of the season. And through that decision, initially he wasn't going to go and help them save Cordelia, but then he ended up going and deciding to, because he didn't want to see another friend die when he could have been there to help. So I think he was trying to redeem himself in that sense with that. I think maybe in a twisted example, Lindsay, because he stuck to his moral compass for like the first time. He didn't just accept another job like he did at the end of season 1. When he's presented with the moral dilemma with those blind children, he ended up just, you know, getting a promotion. And he's faced with that same thing again this season, but he chose to just walk away and not continue down this dark path he was on. And it doesn't excuse his actions by any means, so it's not redemption in that sense. I think it's just maybe starting redemption and starting to redeem himself by not allowing himself to do any more horrible things with that company and kind of just choosing to walk away, which I think is a very brave thing to do given the power that Wolfram and Hart have. And we kind of saw Wolfram and Hart's bloody everywhere, it's even in Pylia in some kind of twisted examples. So there's that as well. Very briefly, Faith, obviously in the premiere, she's still trying to redeem herself in prison, serving her time for everything she did. And also Kate is another kind of example I thought of, because she really did kind of lose so much this season. She lost her dad last season, and that just sent her down this downward spiral. And, you know, this season, she kind of lost all the significant relationships she had with people, cut herself off, she lost her job, and she's kind of left with nothing. And some of that wasn't even her fault, you know. It wasn't her fault that her father died, it wasn't her fault that demons actually do exist and she was going after them, and people just didn't take her seriously for that because they didn't believe in it. But Kate also made some very, very human mistakes in how she treated Angel, for example, at times, and how far kind of things escalated with that feud. And I think she was kind of on a path to redemption when they made amends and kind of made up. And I think a big thing was she felt like she never earned her father's love and respect, and maybe she didn't deserve it. She kind of felt like, and And I think that was another big blow of her losing her job, is that now her dad would probably be ashamed of her is how she would see that, because she got kicked off the force. And I think now she can have like a fresh start in her life and find a new direction and stuff like that, kind of try and make things better for herself. It could be redeeming herself in the eyes of her father, even though she doesn't, I don't think, needs to, because her dad could be a bit of a dick at times, but that's just how she sees things, obviously. Because I think people do have blind spots when it comes to family, and Kate's no exception to that, which is a very human thing. So yeah, kind of finding redemption in how she goes about her life now, after that whole kind of near-death experience she had and the suicide attempt. So yeah, redemption's going to be a big theme, I think, for every season of Angel, I imagine, because that's kind of what the quest is here, and kind of the theme of the show. So yeah, still, that's the season 2 examples, well, some of them that I came up with. Then another theme was the idea of betrayal and deception. Again, Angel kind of turning his back not only on the lawyers but also his friends and firing them all. They kind of felt betrayed and deceived by him there. Angel and Darla, Drusilla, that whole kind of twisted triangle. And I think initially they did deceive Drusilla when they went to turn her into a vampire. Then that kind of came back to haunt them in a significant way later on. Darla was then turned by Drusilla. They kind of turned against Angel in that sense, and they were initially making progress between Angel and Darla when he was going to help her out, and then boom! She kind of turned her back on him again once she got what she wanted and became a vampire again. And then, he set them on fire, which is, pretty deception-y, I guess. So that whole kind of twisted triangle with those three, definitely for sure, and also, him firing all his team. Lindsay and Lila often kind of stabbed each other in the back and deceived each other as they tried to get like this promotion. There was definitely a big rivalry between the two of them, so that's another big example of it. Harmony deceiving and betraying Cordelia and friends when she kind of joined the side of the vampires at the end, despite all of Cordelia's best efforts to try and allow Harmony to feel welcome and part of the team. She turned her back on all of them. Angel and Judy and all the hotel people in episode 2, that's very much a big idea of deception and betrayal. Judy got scared and kind of betrayed Angel in that sense. Angel betrayed all of them by allowing the demon to feast on them all. They all kind of, I guess, betrayed Angel's innocence when they did try to kill him, because, he was innocent of that. So that's another big thing as well. Gunn and his friends, I feel like that's more on the side of the friends. They probably feel quite betrayed by Gunn spending more and more time with Angel investigations as opposed to them. And there was numerous occasions where they made that clear that they weren't really happy about how Gunn was treating them. And I think that Gunn only really realised that when they just asked him to borrow his truck and didn't actually want him to help them out with a mission or whatever. And then obviously that ended up going very, very wrong. So that's another kind of example of that. And then Wolfram Hart and Angel, that kind of rivalry between the firm and the man. The fact that they were trying to deceive Angel with the visions of Darla, trying to send him down this dark path again and turn him evil again. Angel kind of turning his back on them, deceiving them by locking them all in the room with Darla and Drusilla, leaving a lot of them to die. Allowing those actions to kind of consume him. He deceived, Wolfram Hart and even Anne in Blood Money with the video that was apparently going to be played, but it was just Wesley. So that whole kind of big battle between this law firm and this one vampire is all about kind of deceiving each other and trying to one-up each other at every turn. And I feel like that's going to be a journey that will continue for potentially the rest of the show. Certainly next season, because, Wolfram Hart are far from gone. So we'll see what happens with that. But that was another big theme, betrayal and deception. Then also responsibility, I thought was a big theme this season. So many characters initially, taking responsibility for their actions, with Angel later on when he had his epiphany. Kate taking control of her life and kind of gaining control of her life back. Then when Angel fired everyone, they took on the responsibility to carry on Angel's initial mission and, you know, continue Angel's investigations. Wesley took on the responsibility of being the leader of that. He also took on the responsibility of being the leader of that little kind of group in the Pythia arc near the end of the season. Cordelia and her visions, she owns a lot of responsibility for them. She feels responsible for having them now. I think that gives her a sense of purpose. So when the Gruslag could have taken them, she was like, you can't have them, you know, I need these to help people. She feels like that is her responsibility and what her kind of role in things is. I really liked her kind of, oh, my voice is dying. I really liked her kind of owning those visions and owning what her kind of goal is now. Gunn taking responsibility for when one of his friends died, and, you know, his actions then led to him help everyone save Cordelia. And I feel like that's going to be a theme that will carry on with Gunn. I feel like they need to continue exploring that. It would be a shame if they don't. Then Lindsay and Lila kind of fighting for this promotion and the responsibility that that would give them. They felt they had to get that promotion, otherwise the other one was going to be killed. Obviously we know how it all turned out. And now Lila's kind of gained, I think, a new sense of responsibility from this promotion. And that is, you know, exactly what that responsibility is. We don't know yet because we haven't really seen her since that moment. So that should be exciting to see where they go with all of that. Cordelia also is another example. When she became like the princess, she kind of suddenly had all this responsibility on her shoulders to control her people and all the politics of that, the Gruslag, all of that. She kind of was burdened with that responsibility. And initially she took it in stride and it didn't go quite so well. Because sometimes, you know, people respond in different ways to different amounts of responsibility. You know, there were times when Wesley was a really capable leader and was very confident in himself, and other times where he wasn't so sure. And sometimes he felt a bit undermined by Angel, like coming up with the plan, and then Wesley was like, what Angel said. And while Cordelia enjoyed being the princess and the responsibility that came with it first, once she learned a bit more about what the truth of the situation was, she was like, no thanks, bye. And yeah, that whole kind of journey that Angel went on this season as well was him and his epiphany. You know, that was him taking responsibility for what he'd done all over again. Then failed relationships is another kind of theme I picked up on, not just like romantic relationships, even just friendships, stuff like that. So Angel and Darla, we saw that kind of fall apart in like the flashback form initially, when Angel got his soul back and Darla kind of shunned him and cast him out, and him then coming back begging for another chance. It once again doesn't work out in those flashbacks. And then obviously the present day, they were trying to negotiate something. Then Darla became a vampire. Then they obviously slept together, and Angel was like, bye, no, epiphany, bye. So that kind of all fell apart all over again for them, history repeating itself in that sense. Cordelia and the Gruslag didn't quite work out in the end, which I'm kind of glad of, but still, it's another kind of failed relationship that just by circumstance and plot, basically, it just couldn't last if Gruslag had to stay there and she had to leave. And also Cordelia and Harmony's friendship completely broke down when Harmony kind of betrayed Cordelia with the other vampires. Cordelia and Angel for a time as well, and she was like, we're not friends, and that kind of echoed back with how things played out with Harmony and her. Wesley and Virginia was very much a failed relationship, even though I think they did genuinely, you know, have a lot of feelings for each other. It's just they led two very separate lives, and I don't think Virginia was quite in that mindset to cope with how Wesley lives his life. So that relationship ultimately broke apart and failed. Yet again, Gunn and his friends, his kind of bond with them that we saw was so strong, and they've such like a secure unit when we first met them in Warzone. How things have kind of gone since then. Now Gunn's kind of split his loyalties a bit more. There's a clear distance between him and all his friends there. So that relationship's kind of breaking down and on the way to failure more than anything. Bethany and her dad, and that's a very kind of twisted and failed relationship in that sense, in the fact that, you know, he betrayed the trust that a daughter should have when it comes to her dad, and he was the ultimate dickhead, basically, and how that kind of all got so twisted and disgusting is another kind of example of that. Angel and Kate's failed kind of friendship. I wanted it to be a blossoming relationship in season 1, but that didn't come about, and how their kind of friendship and ally kind of relationship kind of fell apart, and therefore Angel couldn't rely on Kate to get like lots of information, arrests and stuff like that. Luckily they did make amends in the end, but for a long time, you know, that was kind of a failed friendship. Lindsay and Darla, you know, he was kind of in love with her. I think she enjoyed his company, probably that's about as far as it went. But it never really got started with those two, really. There was a few teasers, but ultimately it didn't work out, and you know, she ended up skipping town and emptying his closet of all her clothes, and off she went. So I don't know if Lindsay, maybe if he's gone off to find Darla, that could be interesting, I don't know. Then Jean and Denise, who can forget those two from Happy Anniversary? You know, a big part of the episode was the fact that Denise was going to break up with Jean, and he tried to suspend her in a bubble forever. Yeah, I'm glad that failed. And he also took responsibility for that in the end, so that was good. So yeah, that was just a relationship that was never going to work out. And then another example is Lorne and his family. The fact that, you know, he left that dimension and they felt like he'd turned his back on all he believed in and stuff like that. And even when he did return home, even when, you know, he could have died, they still just thought he brought shame to their family. And they're not particularly close. They're a very complicated family, as Angel and him and Lorne were kind of talking about after they left the house. So that's kind of another broken down, failed relationship between Lorne and his family, which is kind of a shame, but you know what, it did provide a few laughs, so it was kind of nice to see the breakdown of a relationship, but a more kind of comedic side to it, because it's like these demons, and you can't really, you don't want to equate it to real life just so as much as you could do with like human characters. Then another theme was the past coming back to haunt you. A big thing with that was obviously Angel and his time as Angelus and the regrets he has from all of those actions. The fact that, you know, he killed Darla and then she could be brought back to be used against him, and the history between those two was kind of instrumental in Angel's downfall in the middle of the season. So that really did come back to haunt him. Quite literally in episode 2, Angel's past came back to haunt him with that demon and everything that kind of happened there, all those flashbacks we were kind of seeing to what happened in the hotel the first time, and how that was now going to affect Angel in the present day. Lindsay and his friend that was in that tank in Dead End, the guy who recognised who he got like his hand from, I think it was, and the fact that, you know, he had this connection to this guy who's now being used by Wolfram Hart, just for like body parts and stuff like that, and the fact that Lindsay knew this guy had this deep impact on him, and that's kind of why he chose to leave in the end. I think it was just another random person, you know, he wouldn't have been anywhere near as affected, but that was kind of his epiphany and his wake-up call. Someone he knew being used like that by Wolfram Hart. Again, Lorne and his family, when he came back to Pylia, and his actions in leaving came back to haunt him in a big way, as his family kind of shunned him and everyone was kind of against him in Pylia. Bethany and her dad, when she came face to face with him again, and all that trauma that had been caused by her dad to her, you know, kind of made her powers become out of control and crazy and stuff like that. Cordelia with Harmony coming back into her life. It's kind of another reminder of the Cordelia that we used to know in the early seasons of Buffy. And it was an example of showing how much Cordelia has changed and Harmony potentially hasn't. She's definitely more enjoyable to watch, but she's still an evil vampire. And yeah, all that kind of trouble was caused with Harmony betraying them and everything, because the fact that Cordelia knew Harmony in high school and was friends with her. So there was that. Wesley and that conversation with his dad on the phone, and the disappointment Wesley's father seems to have over him all the time. The fact that, when he called him to tell him, you know, I'm the leader of this group now. And all his dad could say was, oh, you're going to get fired this time. Because, you know, Wesley's time in the council and the Watcher and all that. The fact that that all kind of let him down and failed before, that was coming back to haunt him through the means of his dad. Being a bit of a prick by the sounds of it. Then yeah, Drusilla and Angel, the fact that Angel was the one who like sired Drusilla and turned her into a vampire all those years ago, came back in a big way in the fact that, you know, she was therefore around to turn Darla back into a vampire. And everything, when, you know, all the trouble she brought to Sunnydale and Buffy, it's all kind of because of Angel turning her into a vampire all that time ago. So that's another example of the past coming back to haunt him there. So yeah, that was that. And that was another theme. And then the last kind of one I was thinking of, at least the last major theme, is the idea of how you are viewed and perceived by people. And even how you're viewed and perceived by us as the audience, these characters. So the various stages of Angel's life that we saw in this season, all the different kind of versions of him that we saw. You know, Fred being able to see past like the pure demon side of him. In Cordelia and her visions, it was kind of portrayed that this monster was killing the Gruselage and attacking him, but it was actually her, you know, one of her dear friends. And the visions as a whole, you know, sometimes they are misinterpreted, like in the premiere, Angel quite significantly misinterpreted Cordelia's vision, ended up killing that nice demon. So that's another kind of big example of that. You know, Angel being blamed in I Now and Have You Ever Been in that past, and therefore they acted and tried to kill him, things like that, even though he was innocent. And Judy was kind of ashamed and afraid of being perceived as like pretending to be white, for example. Cordelia and being a princess, you know, sometimes she seemed a bit burdened with these visions on Earth and in like day-to-day life. You know, she had a vision in public and everything, everyone was like, what the hell is that girl doing? Just like making a scene and things like that, or even throwing up in the middle of a restaurant, for example. And yet those visions caused her to be perceived as a princess in Pylia. So different things like that. Gunn's different loyalties, people were perceiving him in a different way. Because I think some of his friends felt a bit more abandoned by Gunn, compared to like this clear leader that he used to be. He's not quite so much that anymore. And then yeah, Wesley being perceived as like so unworthy of being the leader, like the Pythia lot who kind of granted him that honour, and him becoming the leader of Angel Investigations. And when Angel came back, sometimes he forgot that he wasn't the leader anymore, things like that. Wolfram Hart and the whole charity event they kind of organised in Blood Money, they were kind of perceiving themselves to be something they really weren't, and like this really nice, generous company offering all this money and these donations and things like that. And that video of Holland, you know, trying to make them seem like really nice and sweet and innocent and this really cool company, and people kind of had to buy into that. And then Darla and the dreams, she kind of invaded with Angel. You know, that she was kind of twisting him at his most vulnerable state, really, and trying to have him perceive her to be like this really, you know, goddess-like figure, I guess, to him, and he worshipped her in those dreams, and that was kind of due to her manipulations and things like that. And yeah, Cordelia's visions is another thing, and the host's kind of visions as well, or Lorne's visions. When people sing, he can give them a glimpse of like their future, but again, that can be misinterpreted at times and stuff like that. And sometimes things are very, very vague, and it can give you the wrong idea about certain people. So yeah, that was another big theme I thought of, and those are basically all the big themes I kind of had for this season. I've probably missed some really obvious ones, so let me know what ones you picked up on as well, other examples of them and of ones that I've mentioned as well. But those are just the ones that I kind of took personally and the ones I found most interesting from season 2. So that is that. And then we move on to our favourite episodes. And thank you, as always, to everyone who voted on the post in the community tab. Had a really decent response, actually, for these. And yeah, looking at the results, I don't think it's particularly surprising, honestly. But yeah, I'm very, very intrigued as to how your top 5 compares to mine, because it's actually very, very similar, which I don't think always happens. But yeah, I actually found it really, really difficult to pick my top 5 for season 2. When I narrowed it down, like, oh, that could be a favourite of mine, that could be a favourite of mine, that could be a favourite of mine, I had 10 episodes. So that wasn't ideal, because I literally had to get rid of half of them for a top 5. So I have quite a few honourable mentions. And honestly, my top 5 I think is so changeable. And I kind of made a few decisions as to what went in my top 5, because I wanted like different types of episodes in my top 5. But we'll get there in a bit. But for now, the ones that you guys voted for, kind of ended up sorting them into kind of 11 little slots. So yeah, joint 11th and last place, clearly, with 0 votes, was Judgment, First Impressions, Dear Boy, which actually kind of surprised me, The Shroud of Ramon, Blood Money, Happy Anniversary, which does not surprise me, The Thin Deadline, and Belonging. So they all had 0 votes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes that didn't get any votes at all. But still, I think it's another case that some episodes are just so good this season, and like the Darla arc heavy episodes were so good, you kind of have to vote for them over like even episodes you may have enjoyed, but they just weren't like Darla heavy ones or plot heavy ones, you know. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened, because I really enjoyed Belonging, but you know, some other episodes were just so good. Episodes like that kind of get left behind a bit. So yeah, in 10th place was Untouched, which got 2 votes. 9th was Redefinition, which got 3 votes. 8th was Over the Rainbow, which got 7 votes. 7 was Guys Will Be Guys. I think that's how you say it. I imagine it is. I think it's like Disguise, right? And that got 9 votes. Joint 6th was Disharmony, Through the Looking Glass, and There's No Place Like Blitzgrub, however you pronounce that. They all got 10 votes. And then your top 5, probably not going to be too surprising, but joint 5th was Reprise and Dead End, which got 12. Joint 4th was The Trial and Epiphany, which got 19. Then we get quite a big jump, and 3rd was Darla with 31 votes. 2nd was Reunion with 40 votes. And number 1, maybe not a surprise, is Are You Now or Have You Ever Been, with 46 votes. So it was actually quite close between the top 2, only 6 votes in it. But yeah, I think I'm kind of in a pretty big agreement with you guys in terms of how you voted on a lot of these episodes, particularly like the top favourite ones. You know, I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of them are like the Arc Darla heavy episodes, and Are You Now or Have You Ever Been, which clearly seems to be a fan favourite from what I gather. So yeah, that's what you guys all voted for on that poll, so thank you so much as always for doing that. See you in another like 5 or so months when we'll be doing it all over again. And yeah, so my top 5, I found this so difficult. With Buffy, I did it so easily. With my season 5 top 5, I was like, yep, that'll do. But Angel, I think it was just so close between so many different episodes. And I have so many different reasons for loving different episodes. I'm like, oh, that episode was so much fun to watch because it was so funny. But should I put that above like these really great arc heavy episodes? Is that kind of fair? Just because it's funnier, does that mean it's better? I was trying to work that all out in my head, and I found it very, very confusing. So this is very, very difficult for me to kind of pick. But I did set on something. It is very close between like 5th place and basically all my honourable mentions. It's just so hard, but I kind of wanted a bit more variety in my top 5. So I kind of went for, I ended up putting number 5 as like quite a funny episode. Just because I really enjoyed watching it, and I watched my reactions back and stuff like that, and saw my initial afterthoughts on the episodes to see how much I clearly enjoyed them. That kind of helped me sort a few of them out. But yeah, my honourable mentions are Dear Boy, Darla, Epiphany, Disharmony, and Over the Rainbow. Dear Boy, Darla, and Epiphany are very arc plot heavy ones. Darla was in 3rd place, Epiphany was joint 4th, and yeah, Dear Boy didn't get any votes, but it's still, for me anyway, a really, really cool episode. So there's like really arc heavy ones, but there were so many great arc heavy episodes, there's literally not room in them for the top 5 anyway, for all of them. So I kind of made a few kind of adjustments based on that. So I didn't just want it to be, these are the Darla episodes, so therefore they're the top 5. Because there were some episodes I just enjoyed watching more, because sometimes they were just a lot more fun. and Disharmony and Over the Rainbow were very much examples of that. They were really fun, enjoyable episodes to just sit back, relax and watch. But they just missed out for a couple of reasons. So yeah, my top 5, in 5th place is actually Guys Will Be Guys. And yeah, this was I kept switching this one out with other ones. I very nearly put Darla in 5th. I very nearly put Disharmony in 5th. I very nearly put Epiphany in 5th. But I ended up going for Guys Will Be Guys, just because I wanted at least one like quite funny episode in my top 5 for this season, because I feel like they had some really great kind of comedic moments this season and comedic episodes. And because I enjoyed that aspect of the season so much, I wanted to at least have one of those kind of episodes in my top 5. So I feel like that really does summarise my thoughts on the season as a whole a lot better than just putting like all the plot heavy episodes as a top 5. So I went for Guys Will Be Guys because I had so much fun with this episode. You can tell if you go and watch my reaction to that and how I am in the afterthoughts. I was like really buzzing after that episode. I really, really loved it. I loved the focus on Wesley, and he was hilarious in that episode. The twists and turns in the plot I really enjoyed, and alongside that, you know, we had Angel going off and doing his own thing, kind of learning about, you know, himself and things like that, which I also found very, very interesting in how that all turned out. And just the idea of Wesley pretending to be Angel, I thought was genius. Really great concept for an episode. And yeah, I just had an absolute riot with that episode. I thought it was so much fun. If anything, I think it's not like higher, just because some episodes, like the plot heavy episodes, were just like so good. And you know, Cordelia wasn't as a big part of like Guys Will Be Guys, for example. You know, not all the characters got like a lot to do. That's why it may not have been any higher. But I really wanted like a really fun episode in my top 5, so I had to go for that one, because that was so much fun. I had an absolute ball watching that episode. So that's 5th place for me. 4th place is Reprise. You know, I know some people would be tempted to put Reprise and Epiphany together, and I know some people did in their votes, but I just didn't count it because I said 3. And yeah, I think looking back at the episodes and looking at my reactions and stuff, I know I wanted at least one of that 2-parter in my top 5. I think I enjoyed Reprise a bit more. I think that was a bit of a better episode for me, so I ended up putting that one in here. But yeah, so another really, really great episode. The tension in that, everything with Kate, and the cliffhanger kind of ending with that and her actions was really, really interesting. And I just adored that scene with Holland and Angel, you know, going through the elevator and finding out, you know, the evil they serve is like Earth itself, and what that did to Angel I thought was just such an interesting idea. Like, Angel just can never win this battle, because, you know, it's not like he can just destroy the Earth and beat the Earth. I thought that was such an interesting concept, and I really, really loved that a lot. And seeing Angel continue down his dark path was still very, very interesting. And then we got that ending, of course, with him and Darla, and then him waking up. And I was like, oh shit, is he turned again? Is he evil again? That was a really, really kind of cool ending that I really, really loved. So yeah, a really tense episode. I thought it's kind of the big kind of crux of the season, I think, for me. And yeah, just kind of edge of the seat kind of stuff with Reprise. So I had to put that in number 4. And number 3, where did this rank with you guys? Oh, this was joint 4th for you. I put The Trial in 3rd place. This is funny actually, because this was kind of an episode I'd almost forgotten about in like the grand scheme of things. Because you're just like, oh yeah, Darla's a vampire. You kind of forget there was a time when Angel was trying to fight to keep her alive and keep her human, because she was like still dying of, was it syphilis or something? And yeah, this episode I kind of forgotten about it almost, and revisiting it and going back to it and looking at my reactions and stuff, I'd just forgotten how much I enjoyed it. And not just for that ending, because that's one hell of an ending for an episode when Drusilla turns up. That's one of my favourite, like, oh my fucking god episode, like, moments of maybe not just the season, of like the entire Buffyverse. That was insane when Drusilla just like glides in, doesn't say a word, just transforms Darla again. So that ending enough is like, holy shit, that's awesome. But I always like episodes and moments where we see Angel really be tested and have to face what he's done and who he is and try and accept who he is. And I think the trials definitely did that, particularly the one, you know, like the holy water, where the thing was that he had to reach in holy water and there was crosses all over the floor. He had to keep walking through them. He had to just accept the fact that he was a vampire and face all that pain just to complete this trial to save the life of the woman he had once killed. I just think that's kind of a really cool idea. And seeing Darla like watch this all play out, and we had a really nice scene even after all of that when Angel like promised to help Darla through it and everything just before Drusilla and everyone like bursts in. Just a really good examination, I think, of Angel's character and his pure strength. And yeah, it was kind of, I want to say the calm before the storm, but it was the storm before the storm, because, you know, this was kind of a real stepping point towards Angel going quite dark near the middle of the season. So yeah, that was really, really great, and I loved the ending. I loved the focus on Angel and his struggles. The whole idea of it I thought was kind of genius, so I loved the trial a lot. Then second place was Reunion. Another kind of a what the fuck ending, like the trial, with Angel firing everyone and him leaving all the lawyers to be eaten by Darla and Drusilla. That was kind of crazy and an awesome turn. It just got me so hyped to see where the story was going to go next in like a major way. And yeah, just seeing Darla and Drusilla kind of interact and go on their little rampage and escapades and stuff like that, I really, really enjoyed. The battle between Angel and Drusilla as they were waiting for Darla to kind of rise again was great. Everything behind that, just another really, really fun, plot-heavy episode that I really enjoyed. And yeah, just that big turn with Angel at the end, and he kind of fires them all, is just awesome. And that moment where he just shuts the doors on the lawyers, I just can't seem to care. I think that's going to be one of my favourite Angel moments ever, even when I've done the other 3 seasons, you know. That was kind of a crazy, iconic moment that I just really, really loved. And that episode was just an absolute blast. And then first place, probably not a surprise to some of you, and certainly not people who voted, because just like you guys, my number one is Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? Such a unique episode. I loved delving into more of Angel's history, but not like when he was Angelus, for example, when he just got his soul back. This was kind of the middle ground and a point in time with Angel that we hadn't really seen much of. You know, he had his soul back, but he was still kind of drinking like human blood and stuff like that, and he wasn't quite the Angel we knew yet. And I really enjoyed getting to know that version of Angel that we hadn't really seen before. And the idea of being in the hotel now and then having flashbacks, and the paranoia demon, I think is one of the best ideas for a demon we've had on the show. And Judy's story I thought was very, very interesting, and that betrayal that Angel went through, and even more so seeing the rest of the season and the foreshadowing in that episode to Angel's actions at the end of Reunion, is just kind of brilliant, and I really, really loved that a lot. Just a really unique kind of feel to the episode. I love the kind of almost noir vibes at times, and everything about it I just really, really loved. And I also loved how it kind of set up Angel kind of interacting with that guy in the library, and then they brought him back when he was older later on in the season. I thought that was really cool, and just shows the importance of this episode. And I do know this is kind of a fan favourite, it would seem, and I can see why. It was just such a brilliantly enticing episode and interesting to watch, and I loved the concept behind the 2 time periods. Just seeing this version of Angel we didn't really we hadn't really had before. The paranoia demon was so cool. And yeah, Judy's story I thought was also very interesting, and they managed to achieve a hell of a lot, and some really powerful stuff in just like 42 minutes. So yeah, a very unique kind of episode for Angel, very inventive, very kind of bold and different to anything that came before since I think on Angel. You know, it's kind of like Angel's version of like Hush or The Body, you know, something like that. I mean, maybe not quite The Body, but you know, a very experimental and unique episode that I just absolutely, utterly adored. So good, and yeah, that's my favourite episode of season 2. Just really, really phenomenal stuff with that. It's just such a beautifully made episode. So yeah, that's my top 5 episodes for season 2. And we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. My voice is giving out. I think you can hear it. I'm literally filming this the day after. I filmed from the start to all the character stuff. As I filmed this, I filmed that yesterday because I ran out of time. Dad came home, so I had to kind of stop. and then we've filmed everything else since then today. But even then my voice is still giving out, so luckily we only have one section left, then I can rest, only for an hour or two, because I'm going to start Angel Season 3 after this. And yeah, this final section is obviously my predictions for Angel Season 3, and I'm very, very excited to get into this. I've done another 5 predictions, I believe, and we'll see how things go. I actually found it quite difficult to predict stuff, mainly because, like I mentioned earlier in the review, I didn't really feel like the end of the season kind of was like, boom, this is going to be like a plot point next season, this is going to be like a character arc next season, this is going to be a villain next season. I feel like we didn't quite get that at the end of this season, so I actually found it quite difficult to kind of predict things. But I came up with stuff anyway, so we'll see how this goes. So the first one, I think I'd be very disappointed if they kind of gloss over this, but the first prediction I have is that the start of the season will be exploring Angel's grief over Buffy's death. I don't think it's going to last too long, because I'm pretty sure Buffy's going to come back. But I think it would be a really interesting thing to do, to kind of take an episode maybe with Angel mourning Buffy. I don't know if it would like be the plot of an episode, because it is Angel's show, and I think they are separating it from Buffy more and more. So having an episode all about a character on Buffy dying and not a character on Angel dying, I think might be a bit weird. But I feel like they can't just ignore, like the love of Angel's life dying, So yeah, I thought that would be kind of an interesting thing to do to start the season, and just see how Angel's kind of dealing with that, and exploring kind of what happens when an immortal being who will live forever loses someone. Do they end up forgetting them in the long run? Years and years go by. Do you keep forgetting people? Do you remember everyone you lose when you're in like an immortal being? I think that could be an interesting thing for them to explore. I'd like to see them try and do that if they can. So my second prediction is that Lila's going to take a bigger role next season, maybe even be like centre stage and be like the main villain. I know Angel doesn't seem to do big bads, but maybe she could be like one of the big antagonists of the season. Now she's got her promotion, I think that makes a lot of sense. Now Lindsay particularly is out of the picture, Darla potentially is out of the picture for a little while. I think this is like the perfect time for Lila to kind of step up into that antagonistic role. So we've definitely seen her be like an antagonist before, like in Untouched. But I think this is a chance to maybe get a bit more of that, and to really see who Lila is and see what makes this character tick a lot more than we have already. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case, and she might take a bit more of a bigger role and maybe centre stage as like a villain or antagonist of some kind next season. Even if it's not as like an antagonist, even if we learn a lot more about her and she has a bigger role in things, I think that could be an interesting thing. And I feel like that is going to be what they go for since she got the promotion and everything. So we'll see what happens with that, but I'm kind of intrigued by it. I also think we could potentially get a lot more focus on Lorne and Fred, my two favourite new characters we got this season. This is more like a hope than a prediction, because this is what I want to see. I've also put potentially Faith as well. We catch up with Faith again and maybe get a bit more of her next season. That would be really, really nice. Explore where she's been. But also, yeah, I feel like they've definitely set up Lorne and Fred to kind of be like staples of the team, or at least like really good allies for the team. So I'm hoping season 3 will explore those characters a lot more. And I just think that'd be really, really interesting, because I really liked Lorne a lot. I thought Fred has cinnamon roll potential if we get a lot more of her. So that'd be really, really cool. And I'm hoping that's where season 3 is going to go with those two. And we're going to get a lot more focus. We might learn even more about them, particularly Fred, because we really don't know a lot about Fred at all. And see how they kind of interact more with all the different elements of the group, and if they like join the team or don't. I think it could be interesting. So I'm hoping we get more focus on those two. And my fourth prediction, I think Darla is going to return in season 3, but maybe like midway through the season. I feel like it could be like a Drusilla turning up at the end of the trial moment, and that's how like Darla kind of returns. She gets like maybe the end of an episode near the middle of the season. She's like, boom, I'm back, bitches. I'm going to rain hell on you. I'm going to get revenge, whatever. I'm evil. I felt that could be a cool thing to do. And maybe like have half a season getting to know any potential new characters, or wrapping up some story arcs like with Gunn and Angel with Buffy's death from last season. And obviously maybe have Lila still play a bit of a role as like an obstacle for them for like the first half of the season. Then Darla's like, boom, I'm back. And she could get like some big focus. But I think we're going to see her in season 3, maybe around midway through the season. And then finally, my 5th and final prediction is about Cordelia's visions. And, you know, they explored a lot of those visions kind of hurting her and having like a really physical impact on her in the last kind of bit of last season. And I feel like maybe season 3, they're really going to address that head on and maybe even fix the problem. Because I don't think they could drag that out forever of just Cordelia's visions getting like worse and worse. I feel like they're going to have to do something about it at some point. It's going to like be a crisis moment. It's like, you know, Cordelia's going to die if she has like one more vision. We need to do something about it. What are we going to do? And maybe they like find a solution for it. I feel like that's going to take up, like, even if it's just like a 1 episode thing, I feel like they could do that and like focus on it for like an episode. But it could also be like a long running arc for Cordelia in season 3, for example, and weighing up with like, is the possibility that I'm going to just drop dead one day with a vision? Is that worth it if I can still help people now? And, you know, maybe I should have given Bruce my visions. I feel like that's going to be addressed and potentially fixed in season 3. So yeah, those are my predictions for next season, and we'll find out in like half a year how I did. I really don't know what to expect for next season, which is exciting. And yeah, a lot of those predictions are more so hope than anything else. I think the whole thing with Lila, and even Cordelia's visions, I would say like more educated guesses, and then the others are like what I kind of hoped and want to see. And yeah, I'm excited to find out how well I did with those next season. But those are my season 3 predictions. And that's it, guys. That is it. My voice is nearly gone, so it's time to wrap it up. We'll see how long this is. I don't know. I feel like the season 1 review, and you know, we were talking about a brand new show for the channel, and I'd actually learned how to properly do reviews in depth as opposed to Buffy season 1. So I don't know how long this is going to be, if it's going to be longer or anything. But you know, I never aim to have reviews be like longer than the last. I don't think that's a good way of doing things. I don't just want to chat shit just so I can have like a longer and longer video every time. I just talk for how long I feel like I need to. So we'll see how long this has ended up being. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with it. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for your support on my Angel Season 2 reactions. And yeah, once this goes up, obviously this is part of the cycle, and then I believe it's the first 2 episodes of Angel Season 2, and I am aware there's kind of a thing, some reactors watched episodes 2 and 3 of this season the wrong way round. I am aware of that. Hopefully I will not be making that mistake. I think I have been sent the correct order of episodes, and I think we'll be good with that. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to kick off season 3 and see what it's all going to be about. I have no real idea of what direction they're going to take it in, which is always exciting. And I hope you guys are excited for those season 3 reactions as well. So yeah, Angel season 3, we're going to be reaching the halfway point of the series for this season. And also Buffy season 6, which is kind of insane. We're getting there, we really are getting through it now. I feel like I've actually made a dent in these Buffyverse reactions. So yeah, thank you as always for your love and support on season 2. I've really, really loved reacting to it and watching it and reliving it with you guys as well. When I upload the videos, and all my patrons on Patreon, thank you so much for your support. Who get the full reactions to these videos. And yeah, quite the journey. Looking forward to seeing where it goes next. And yeah, my next reaction will be Angel season 3 premiere. And until then, thanks for watching.